Hello, boys and girls. We're back on the Mr. Arsenal podcast for something different today. A Premier League. I think something I've never thought I'd actually be doing in the circumstances, but a Premier League return preview. And I'm joined by some special guests today. I'm going to start with the neutrals. We've got Rose, who's an Everton fan. How are you doing, Rose?
Hi, yeah, good, thank you.
Looking forward to the big return, the big game on Sunday.
Yeah, probably more nervous than excited, but yeah.
And on the Man United's front, we've got Daniel. How are you doing, Daniel?
I'm good. I actually have mixed feelings about the game against Tottenham, believe it or not, which we'll get into.
We'll get into that in a minute. And obviously, you've got Kevin Campbell, ex-Arsenal, Everton, and Premier League all-round legend. How are you doing, Kevin?
I'm good. I'm really good. Really good. I was on Sky earlier on, so, got rid of that, and now I'm on this. So brilliant. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Keep me busy.
Keep me very busy.
Busy day today.
Busy day today, yeah. I'm doing La Liga later on, so got plenty of prep work.
Okay. What are you doing for the Liga, though?
Barcelona play tonight. They play Leganes tonight.
That's a win for Barcelona.
Yeah, that's a home win. But it's on Facebook, so it goes out to the Asia Pacific that way. So that's what we do. Yeah.
And Richard, you've come back as well. How are you doing, Richard?
Yeah, not bad at all, mate. Not bad at all.
Yeah, right. Well, we might as well get into it. We've got just over 24 hours to go for the big return. First question: Did any of us see this happening back in about a month ago? So we'll start with you, Rose.
I had mixed feelings, really. So I did a video about a month and a bit ago. It was when I am going to bring society things into it. So it was when there was PPE shortages. There were doctors saying they didn't have enough, and the nurses in the NHS. And then when the stories were coming out that the PPE, we were going to have football coming back, then when that was said, I was completely against it, to be honest. I said, well, PPE needs to go to the doctors, the nurses, the care home staff. It should not be going to football right now. But I guess when it was pretty inevitable that football was going to come back, then I thought absolutely footballers should get it, of course. They have to be safe, and everybody involved in football. So yeah, I was quite mixed about it to start with. Whether we could do some points per game that's happened lower down in the leagues. I was thinking about that one, but money talks. So the Premier League's back, and yeah, I'm just going to get behind Everton, really, especially on Sunday.
Yeah, big game Sunday, especially if we get a result. If we get a win tomorrow, it's more pressure on you guys to stop Liverpool winning the league.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, don't follow in Tottenham's footsteps. They've had 2 experiences of that, so in their lifetime.
Yeah, I was going to say, you guys have been on the positive side of that. I mean,
yeah.
I can't imagine how Tottenham fans must have felt when you guys won the league at White Hart Lane. So, yeah.
Well, we done it twice, so hey, we're used to being on the positive side. We'll never be on it. When it comes to North London, we'll never be on the negative side of that side of things. Touch wood. Daniel,
you've done it at Old Trafford as well, which I'll never forget.
Old Trafford 02, Anfield 89.
Still burns me to this day.
We're quite good at Ryan, aren't we? We're quite good at going away from home and on enemy territory.
Oh, of course, yeah. It's sort of a habit of ours, a good habit.
Good habit.
Well, it was a good habit anyway.
Yeah, it was.
It's been a while now, hasn't it? Now
it's been the operative word.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it was being in the operative word when it comes to us winning titles at rival grounds. Anyway, Daniel, did you think we were going to be in this situation a month ago?
No, I mean, I fully expected the league to be voided in some shape or form, to be honest. If you told me that on the 16th of June, people be queuing outside Primark to go shopping, I wouldn't have believed it, or people be on beaches, I just wouldn't have believed it. But no, I'm happy that football's back. One of the things that sort of made me lead to believe that it wasn't going to come back was, I don't think the communication from the Premier League was very, very good.
No.
They weren't, giving out information freely. They obviously did their due diligence behind the scenes, but it would have been nice if we had that information. We were getting constant updates. But look, football's back. It's here. The precautions have been made. There haven't been a lot of tests, positive tests. So yeah, no, I'm excited for football to be back.
Well, that's the thing about communication. You touched on it. The communication that really frustrated me, because the only communication they really gave us is they didn't want to. They were not going to avoid it. They were never going to avoid it. That was their one way or another. They were going to finish this league.
Yeah, and it sort of allowed the media just to, run these crazy stories about this scenario and that scenario. It changed every single day, what the outcome could possibly be, and that the uncertainty wasn't, it wasn't, obviously a bigger issues than football, but just from the football fans' perspective. Just would have been nice to have more information, but yeah, look, we're here now, so it worked out well, I guess, in the end.
Yeah. What about yourself, Richard, from an Arsenal perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect the season would start a month or so ago, but I suppose once the German league got up and running again, you could kind of see that the other leagues in Europe were going to eventually follow suit at some stage. I mean, it just seems weird to me, like preparing to get into the Premier League in June when that's normally like World Cup month, isn't it? It just seems a strange scenario thinking about Premier League games in June and July, where it would have been the European Championships, wouldn't it? Now going on, which is more what you'd expect at this time of the year, isn't it? Really, but it's a bit of a strange thing all round, really. But it's back now, or it's going to be, and I just think now it's a matter of just getting this season finished, and hopefully we can get back to a bit more normality by the time it comes around to starting next season again. I don't suppose there's any other choice now. The money involved in it was too great for them to avoid it, or like they avoided some of the lower leagues. So let's just let's just crack on with it, and hopefully it's a good end to the season. Certainly for Arsenal's point of view, we can get in that top 5 at least.
Well, the thing is, Richard, we've discussed before. I have actually felt bad for you the last couple of weeks since they've done the old fixtures announcement, because originally when Arsenal versus Southampton was going to be on your birthday, then Sky took it away from you.
Yeah, they did. They've moved it to the next day, but it might just be just as well, because I've seen England lose a few games in the World Cup on my birthday over the years, so it might not be a bad thing to avoid that. I mean, it'd be nice if Arsenal could have won, but we'll see what happens. I mean, it's just one of them things, and it'll probably never happen again. So I'll just have to. I think Everton are playing, aren't they, on the 24th? So I'll have to watch them instead.
I think they are actually as well. Kevin, not just as a fan, as an ex-player, what was your position on the Premier League returning?
It was always going to come back, Ryan. It was always going to come back for a big amount of reasons. But Rose actually hit on something that we all know. It's about the money. It's about the money, the positions. Look, we know Liverpool are running away with it. Sad that we are about that, but they are. They're running away with it. But the bottom end of the league and the top of the championship is the key part of the Premier League, because who goes down and who comes up, you can't mess about with that on some permutation of goal points, receive points won or whatever. You have to play those games. It's really important that finishes. So and don't forget, every position higher that you finish in the Premier League, that means money to the football club. So there's sponsors things to fulfill, there's Premiership positioning, there's promotion and relegation that you got to look at. Obviously the Championship, they go through to Wembley, and then they have the richest game in the world, is the playoff final. Too many things going for the league to come back. So I always knew it would come back. Exactly when, I didn't know, because realistically we're still really in lockdown, aren't we? So but I knew they'd finish it.
Well, that's the thing. It's been, you mentioned the points per game thing, and we've seen that just in Scotland in that League One, the teams that have been moved position because of that, they're now starting to lawyer up, and they're not impressed with how it's been, because it's basically just guesswork. You're guessing they're getting that point or just X, Y, and Z. And teams are
it's more about the form beforehand as well, whereas it's not taking into account the fact that some teams were going to finish the season stronger than they started, and some teams are going to finish it maybe not as strong as they started, and you can't factor that in when it's points per game, can you? Because it's not taking that into account. So it's I mean, if they did it in the Premier League, we would have suffered more than anybody probably, because of the fact that we had such a poor start and we were just turning things around, and that wouldn't have been taken into account. So we'd have ended up finishing 10th or 9th or something like that, which realistically may not have happened had the game just carried on. And hopefully, it won't happen now they're starting again.
Yeah, I think as a player, you don't want anybody else to determine your future, bar your team. You know,
Yeah.
you don't want no permutations. You don't want no mathematical, some mathematical genius to come up with some some algebra to see whether you stay in the league or finish what position. Play the games, finish the games, and look, they're doing the right thing. It's not going to be the same without the fans, but at least they're going to finish the league, and then we're gonna then obviously move on to next year where there might be some distancing in the stadium. Who knows what's going to happen? But the amount of protests and the amount of people at the beaches and stuff, it's virtually lockdown's virtually finished anyway, isn't it? Really?
Virtually, yeah.
Yeah.
Not legally, but virtually. And just touching on behind closed doors, because there's no fans going to be there now. That's going to be a major difference. We'll see a major difference in just not just results, but in how we watch the game now, from a fan's perspective, and the players were. Arteta was saying yesterday in his press conference, if you could call it that obviously that's going to be they noticed that in the friendlies that basically the feel they get from the fans isn't there, and they're having to find.
He said the intensity might be less, didn't he? The intensity in the games might be less. Kevin will probably know more about that from a player's point of view. Obviously, the fans make a big difference, don't they, to how the players feel on the game, don't they, on the day?
Yeah, I think what this is actually going to do is make the fans more valued, because I thought sometimes the fans were getting a raw deal at times, that people were having to go at fans and players weren't responding to fans, etc. The game is nothing without the fans, and now that these games are going to be behind closed doors, players are going to realize, actually, I'm a better player when the fans are there. Because now there's going to be a lot of players who are going to have to self-motivate. I know, you are playing for Arsenal, or you are playing for Man United or Everton or whichever club. But when the fan base is there, there's an energy created. And when that energy is created, it does transport itself to the players. And the players put the shift in, and then that rebounds back to the fan. But when that's not there, the players are going to have to really be mentally strong, and it's me against my opponent, and that's people are going to motivate themselves differently, but it's there's a lot at stake in a lot of these games, so hopefully the players will be highly motivated.
Kevin, from a player's perspective, sorry, Ryan, do you think maybe not having the fans there may benefit some players? Sort of not having that, if things aren't going well, like when the ball gets given away and the fans groan, that type of thing. Do you think it could have a reverse effect?
Well, you can say that, but nobody actually goes out there to play bad. You see, so when you're playing well, obviously the swell of energy and optimism from the fans come onto the home team, and it obviously it makes the opposition, the away team, so-called weaker. It makes them question themselves. But not having a home fan base there, it's really, from the start, it's really going to help the away team, because the home team haven't got no energy to feed on. So that's going to be an interesting one, how the home teams approach it, because if things ain't going well for a home team, sometimes the crowd get on their back. So it can work both ways. It really can. But just on a level playing field, the away team, where it's usually a 60-40, 70-30, I think that gives an extra few percentage to the away team now, that they feel a bit more comfortable without a fan base there.
It's going to be more tactical, I think, as well, isn't it? Rather than, like you said, getting lifted by the crowd. I think,
definitely.
Which coach has maybe got the better tactics on the day, and the team that carries them tactics out better is maybe going to have the advantage, as opposed to, like you said, the home crowd and whatever, to maybe give the players an extra 10%. That's going to actually have to come from the manager, isn't it, or the coach?
Yeah, I think I'll say this, and I'll ask Rose this as well. Everton tend to rely on the 12th man so much. That fan base, because it's one of them grounds. It's a big ground, but it's still tight. And you could hear the crowd, and the crowd make a massive difference. Merseyside derby, the sirens go in, everybody's up for it. But you know, it's gonna be sad to see the Merseyside derby with no fans. What's your thoughts on that, Rose?
Oh, looks like Rose
She's
is frozen there.
She's
Yeah, looks like
frozen.
Rose
Yeah.
is frozen.
Well, I'll answer that for her then. Rose, are you there?
Oh,
She'll have to come back in. Yeah. No. Look, it's Everton are a team who rely on the 12th man so much, guys. And when there's no 12th man there, again, the manager, you know, is an experienced manager. This team is going to have to self-motivate. They're going to have to self-motivate a lot because, look, we know what's at stake playing Liverpool, but Liverpool are going for the title. Everton, really, what are they going for? Maybe a spot to try and challenge for Europe. So Liverpool's motivation is going to be huge. It's a Merseyside derby with no fans. So, you know, it's more of a...
Yeah, something seems wrong about that, actually. A derby with no fans there. That'd be a weird feeling for the players.
Yeah, it's gonna help the opposition more than the home team, I believe. Rose, Rose, you there?
Oh.
I think the internet's a bit slow. But no, listen, any home team who haven't got the fans there are gonna suffer a little bit. It's just a matter of how much.
I mean, I think it doesn't maybe help the fixtures that the first game back for Liverpool and Everton is a derby, isn't it? It's a strange one to come straight back to after the break. You know, you'd want maybe a couple of games first to get warmed up again, wouldn't you, before going into a game like that?
Well, sometimes, you know, look, they've not played. Everton haven't really played, so you know, you're kind of on an even keel. It's, you know, may the best team win. Sometimes it's better to catch a Man City when they haven't had all the games.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Rose, are you there?
Rose.
No, gone again.
She'll have to come back in,
yeah.
Technology, eh, guys? Technology,
yeah. Bloody thing.
Yeah. Where would we be without it?
Yeah, well, obviously got tomorrow night. Got 2 games tomorrow night. Obviously, Sheffield United, Villa, Upman, and the big one, Man City v Arsenal. Jokingly, do you think Man City got the advantage? Because obviously the joke is their fans never really make any noise. Really, they don't really.
I knew you were going to say that, right?
Well, we get dug out, but we make more noise than them.
Yeah.
No, I've always found the atmosphere there to be quite good, actually. As an away fan at Man City, I think the crowd are quite sort of loud and get behind the team. So I think that not having them there is going to be an advantage for us, hopefully. But I didn't really want us to play so early on. It's like the World Cup, isn't it? You don't want England to play first in the first group, the first round of games, because you want to see how people adapt to the conditions. And I think it'd be nice if maybe we were playing maybe at the weekend or like later on to get a few games going first. We're sort of going straight in there at the beginning, not really knowing what to expect from it all. And, you know, is home advantage going to be taken away? You know, is it going to be an advantage to us? Arteta going back knowing how Pep plays, you know, Pep's going to be worried about that. Is he going to change his tactics? But I'd rather have seen a few games first just to get used to it again. Going straight in so early, I'm not sure if that's really good. But it's what it is now. We're just going to have to deal with it, aren't we, and get on with it.
Yeah, I think there's a really interesting dynamic there. Just as a neutral, I'm looking at 2 teams that like to press, like to play high intensity football. But you're coming back, you're not going to have that real match fitness.
Yeah.
They'll be fit, you know, they'll be fitter than any of us, but they're not going to have that real match fitness. And I'm curious to see if they adjust how they play, just because it's the first game back, or whether they go for it for an hour and then, you know, maybe. Oh, actually, are they going to do that halftime break with the drinks? Or I mean, so not halftime. Within the first half, I think there was
30 minutes.
Yeah, after 30 minutes.
Yeah, break,
Yeah, no, I think they're going to need it, Dan. They're going to need it. They're going to need the drink break.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've got this game in hand. Obviously, we've mentioned this now, but obviously the permutations of it leads into the weekend, because obviously if Arsenal get a result tomorrow night, if we win, Liverpool have to then go to Everton and win there, as we touched on before, and that puts pressure on them. And then obviously there's no fans at Everton. Who does that favour on Sunday? What do you think, Kevin?
Well, as I said before, Ryan, I think actually favors the away team more because
Yeah.
that
Derby as
12th
well.
man, in at Goodison Park, that 12th man is significant on a Merseyside derby. They create a lot of noise, and there's that passion that's there. And we all know it. These crowds can influence a referee. If they're there and they're boisterous, it can influence and make a decision. So
Mm.
I think it's going to favour Liverpool, but we know what stakes are at. The stakes are high. We know what's on. Um, the meaning of this game means. So again, but I still think it gives a little bit. Everton will be obviously the home team and will favour themselves, but it's going to be very close. I know Liverpool are running away with it. It's been a break and all that, but just having no fans there, I think that swings the balance a little bit towards Liverpool.
They wasn't in the best of forms, were they? Just before the break, Liverpool either were they? They lost to Watford. They got knocked out of the Champions League, and they were maybe sort of wobbling a little bit. And maybe the break might have done them good to refocus again. But I think it's the same with everybody. There's no form to go on now, is there? What happened before? I mean, Man United were in a good run of form, weren't they? Probably the informed team in the league at the time. So that's all gone now, isn't it? There's no momentum there. It's basically starting a new season, isn't it? In a way, and who knows who's going to come back stronger? I mean, Everton might be come back flying, and Liverpool might be slow getting going. It might take them 2 or 3 games. I mean, it's not going to probably matter in the end, is it? Because they only need to win 2. But it'd be interesting to see actually which teams are going to come back in, with a bit of fitness more and form, maybe. Because I say that there's no momentum there now, is there?
Yeah,
I'm not sure if it's been said, but I think like going into a game like Sunday at Goodison Park, where the Everton fans would be wanting to cheer as loud as they possibly can to put Liverpool off. I know last season it worked. Like they came, they drew the game, and ultimately it was one of the games that they felt like they could have won. And so I know in the Bundesliga as well, like a lot of teams away from home. Away in quote marks, like they're doing better than the home teams, so I think it will level it in some ways, but definitely for teams who are at home, I think it's definitely a disadvantage to not have fans there.
Yeah,
it's a good point.
No,
Rose, it's a good point.
Yeah,
because that's your advantage, isn't it? That not only is it the opposition travelling to your ground, but it's having the majority of the stadium shouting for you. That's the advantage of playing at home. We know if the opposition are good and they score, the home fans could turn or be quiet. But that's why most home teams win their games, because of the home fan base. So it's going to be a tough one.
I think what you touched on before, Kev, as well about the referee as well. I think the referees get influenced, don't they, by the home crowd quite a lot. And
big time.
Be interesting to see how that kind of plays out. I mean, I've not watched a lot of the German league actually to know how much difference it's made there in terms of sort of refereeing decisions. I know VAR kind of sorts things out to a certain degree, but I mean that's quite an interesting. I haven't really looked at it that way. How much the referees can get influenced. I mean, look at Man United in the 90s and stuff. How many last-minute penalties they got and whatever. Because of the crowd and stuff.
Look at that laughing.
You know what? To be fair to Richard, he said because of the crowd. I thought you were going to say it's because Fergie's got the FA in his pocket. So
obviously,
he was intimidating Fergie. He intimidated everyone, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
It's a bit weird, actually. We had like a 7-8 year period where we couldn't get penalties at all, and now all of a sudden, Ollie's come back. Brought back the United way, and penalties have come again. It's really fun.
You keep missing them, though, don't you? That's the problem.
No, also there's that when it comes to the players on the pitch, Kevin, I don't know if you'll agree, but there's going to be a psychological side of it as well when it comes to the tackling. With everything that's gone on now, that's going to be that. Do we go in for that tackle, this tackle?
I don't think so, Ryan. I'll be honest with you. I don't think so. Look, a lot of the guys, they've had the time when they come back. There was no contact. It was small groups, etc. And then it got past that they can actually start making contact and being involved in 11v11 or some games and whatever. But once you get that go ahead that the games are there, you are going to make contact with people. You're going to have to. because if you don't, the opposition will. So, you know, if you're not going to tackle, you're going to be coming off. So there's no room for any shirking violence here. You know, once that game goes, you cross that white line, it's war again.
I think the players will know that as well. I mean, I don't think once the game starts, they're not going to be thinking about everything else, are they? They're just going to be literally focused on that game and their own battles, aren't they? And I think that's hopefully not going to be an issue. I don't think it will, but we'll see. Obviously, again, we don't know, do we, until it gets going.
Well, also, we've heard the rumours are today about Champions League as well, because they're talking about doing a mini week or weekend sort of thing.
Portugal, isn't it, or something?
In Lisbon,
Lisbon, yeah.
But obviously, there's 2 games in the round of 16 that haven't finished off yet. But somehow got to sort that out, and then basically. But how strict things are over in Portugal in terms of quarantine and all that? How are they gonna sort that out for the Premier League clubs that are still in the competition?
I don't think they can, because they'll have no control over the government policies about quarantine. If you enter the country and you have to sort of be quarantined for 14 days, that sort of puts that to bed.
I suppose
that's going to be lifted, guys. That's going to be lifted. Trust me, that's going to be lifted to end the Champions League. They'll make even if it's special dispensation. That's going to be lifted. Trust me.
They'll all be tested anyway, the players, won't they, before they travel and once they get there. So, you know, they're going to be treated differently to if we were going over there for holiday or something. You know what I mean? It's be completely different, won't it? So I don't think that will necessarily be an issue in terms of them travelling over there. It's just how they're going to fit it all in, I suppose. That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, that's how they're going to fit the games in.
I would love it actually if once those 2 fixtures are played, they just take it back to old school Champions League, 1 game, not 2 legs.
That's what they're doing apparently.
That's what's going to happen, I think, Dan. Yeah, it's going to be straight knockout.
One game quarterfinal, 1 semi-final.
Straight knockout,
I'm a bit younger, so I missed out on that era of European football when it was just 1 game.
It was the best. It was the best. 1 game, that was it. You got to turn up. You know, you got to turn up. It's brilliant.
A lot more pressure then as well because of that. You got to see the big boys and the not so big, and they actually, and how dominant they were back then. But that must have an effect, because that's going to obviously between our schedule the Premier League, because we've only been given the first 4 league games and an FA Cup match, because obviously they need to sort these dates out for the Champions League before they announce the rest of the last 4 or 5 plus FA Cup, and that's going to be weird as well. The FA Cup final at Wembley, no fans.
They might as well play at a non-league ground, mightn't they? Really, realistically, it's not. They don't need to play at Wembley, do they? When 100,000 empty seats is just going to be ridiculous. They should play at a smaller ground, and at least that way it'll be a little bit more.
Happy.
Rich. No. Rose said it before. What is it about? It's about the bread. It's about the money.
Yeah. So, but how much money are they going to make, though?
No, but you got to remember, it's not how much money they make. There's money already in sponsorship, etc.
Yeah.
You know, true. And it's been shown around the world. It's still a fantastic cup competition domestically, the biggest in the world. So the FA Cup still has that prestige. They ain't going no other ground. It's going to Wembley.
Yeah, non-league don't have advertising boards either, so.
Yeah, there you go, Dad.
So, all about the money.
Oh, dear.
It is all about the money, unfortunately.
Rose, you've mentioned in the last few days that the injury list is piling up for Everton. Is that concerning you?
It is. I'm not really sure what they're doing in training, but it's a little bit ridiculous now. Well, you know, we'll just have to get behind the team as we always do. But the midfield options are quite limited. I think we've got Delph, we've got Walcott's injured, Gabaman's out, we've got Yerry Mina who's out for the rest of the season, for this season. And so, it's funny because I don't actually see any of the club that's having that. You're actually getting players who were injured in March coming back to fitness, but we're doing it opposite because that's the Everton way, you know, just 5 or 6 injuries now. So going in with a full squad, I wish. But no, we always get behind the team, but it always seems to be a derby as well. We always, even in like 2014 when we had a pretty good squad, with Lukaku and Barkley and Stones, but they were all injured, and we played with this like makeshift back four. I remember it's 4-0 to Liverpool at Anfield. So it always seems to be the case that when there's a derby, we don't have a full fit squad, unfortunately. How are you guys for injuries? How's Arsenal doing?
I think apart from Cedric Suarez, as I said, we've got a curse with the name Suarez. I swear, because
I think Chambers is out as well, isn't he?
Chambers is
still out. I heard Torreira might not be fit either. I don't know if that's true. I've heard Torreira might not still be fit, but
hasn't he been injured most of the season for you guys?
No, he got injured in the Portsmouth game in the FA Cup, which was the second from last game that we played. I think he's sort of got over that injury, but I've heard that he might not be fit enough to play yet. But we will see what happens when the team's out tomorrow. I think Torreira will be quite a big loss, actually, because I think he'd be an important player in that game. But if he's injured, he's injured.
Yeah, as I was saying, I think we've got a curse with that name Suarez. That's literally Dennis Suarez last year turns up, never plays, is always was literally injured. Cedric turned up this year.
And Luis Suarez used to score goals against
Luis Suarez as well.
Yeah. And we didn't want to pay £1 extra to get him, did we? So
I tell you what this restart's going to do. It's going to actually stretch the squads to breaking point, because when you look at the games are kind of back to back, and it's Dan would tell you. This lockdown's been quite kind for them. They've got Pogba back. They've got other players back fit. So they're looking quite sweet. Other clubs, obviously like Everton, have come back in, and there's been obviously muscle injuries or whatever. There's been bad injuries at the club. So it's going to actually stretch these squads to the breaking point. I think the best squads, we're playing the team with the best squad, which is probably Man City. Liverpool have been the most consistent. But the team with the best squad is Man City. So,
Yeah, Kevin touched on sort of the fitness aspect of it. One of the things I'm sort of happy about as a United fan is we've got some players that I would say I'd call them superior athletes. Like Pogba's a superior athlete. He's not an average one. He's superior to most football players. I look at McTominay, he's another one. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, he's another one. Fred as well, I'd include in that. And Marcus Rashford, who's had plenty of times to recover from that back injury, although I don't think he'd start the game. I think that's an advantage that we're going to have over some teams, is that we've got players whose natural fitness is pretty good anyway. So, I think it'd be fair to say they're at less risk of injury. But again, how the managers manage those squads over the course of the game, it's really important for teams, actually. If you've got opportunities to win the game in the first hour, take it so you can make subs after an hour's gone. Because if you're missing your chances and with sort of 10, 20 minutes to go, you're still in the thick of it, or you're losing, you're in a position where you're going to be making decisions that might compromise you physically.
But also, they've brought in this rule about the new rule. You can use five subs, 9 players.
It's only 2 at a time, though, isn't it? You can only make 2 at any one time, can't you? Is that right?
But even that's, I believe that's a fact. We believe that's the matter, but even that's going to have an effect on the squads as well, because then you've got to pick, and depending on what the situation is.
I think we spoke about this before, and I made a prediction. I still think it's going to happen. Mourinho's going to sub a sub and sub that player. It's going to happen before the season ends.
Probably do it on Friday night, probably when they're losing. Because I don't see, and that's another thing. But as you mentioned about teams having an advantage now, because of obviously back then, like Tottenham, for example, had Son, Kane, and a couple others injured. Now they're all back fully fit. Well, Son's going to end up, he's got another injury apparently, but they've got.
I didn't know that
as well.
It's good news. It's good news for you.
Yeah. When they lost to Norwich on Thursday or Friday, whenever it was, he apparently picked up an injury.
Son worries me a lot because he's a bit of a one-man band. I've noticed that Tottenham, no matter what's happening at Tottenham, injuries, bad form, he seems as an individual to always pick himself up and perform, no matter who's in the team.
It sums up Tottenham's mentality when Lucas is doing videos of a Champions League match ball. Like, that's their mentality. Do
you know what, though? They're going to benefit from the fact that they haven't been around Mourinho for a few months now. That was the advantage. When the season was still... apart from the ones he dragged to the local park. But
Yeah.
That's sort of, there's a clean slate now. We don't have that advantage. The atmosphere at Tottenham was bad before the suspension, and we don't get that benefit now, which is a bit,
We say this, but we don't know how he's behaving since they've been coming back to train. So he might have gone easy at first, and now he's gone back to his, how.
The leopard
Rules
don't
on
change
our
his spots, Ryan.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
Definitely.
So
He's not going to have chilled out that much, is he? In 11 weeks.
So between literally going back to training, first day back in non-contact training, and Friday, he literally could have upset a lot of people. We don't know. Hence why that might be a reason why they lost on Thursday or Friday, whenever it was.
To be fair, we lost our last friendly as well. I'm not reading too much into the friendly results. To be fair, it's all about. It was just about getting a bit of fitness in, wasn't it? I don't think the results.
Oh yeah, the reaction to United losing to West Brom 2-1 was hilarious from rival fans. I have to say.
Yeah.
We got it 24 hours earlier with Brentford, and Brentford are a decent team. Brentford are a decent team.
Dan, you had 2 games. You had 2 games. Don't forget it.
Yeah, and Pereira scored a banger. I think he scored 2 goals. One of them was a banger.
You won 1 game and you lost 1, so that's all right.
Yeah.
I'm
not reading too much
what
into
us Arsenal fans could say. We got.
Nah.
Yeah, I don't want Pereira starting on Friday, even though he scored 2 goals. I'm reading nothing into those results.
I was going to touch on the main, obviously Friday. What is it? Any injuries there with yourselves? Any fresh injuries?
I haven't. I'll be honest. I haven't really been. I've been trying to stay away from all. I just want to see the lineup. All the speculation. I've had a whole summer of speculation about numerous things with Man United, the Bruno Pogba relationship, Jadon Sancho, etc., etc. I just want to see that team sheet, and then I'll react. I'm not gonna. I'm not sort of getting into the speculation beforehand.
As an Arsenal fan, we've had the March till now of literally every other day Thomas Partey non-stop in the press. So it's just like until it's done, I don't believe anything anyway.
Yeah,
the press.
Yeah. Can I just say to you, which I'm on, just on Man United, just want to sort of give credit to Marcus Rashford, really, what he's done, with the kids' meals and stuff like that. It looks like the government have changed their mind now on the back of that as well. So, great credit to him for that, because, it's good to see like a young English football player, doing some real good in the community, really. And, not forgetting where he's come from, from his background and stuff like that. I think that's a great gesture from him, actually. So, great credit to him for that. He's massively gone up in my estimations on the back of that as well. So
yeah, definitely, especially when the health minister comes out and says, all players need to do their part. I'd actually like to see him come out now and they've done their part.
Well, he certainly has. Yeah.
What have you got to say now about it? In fact, there was some articles. I saw an article in the Daily Mail around this time, and they had a sort of just an article targeting players, and Marcus Rashford was in there. And it's like, what people don't realize, actually, he started this initiative in December. It's not during the pandemic. He's been doing it. It's something he's been committed to for a long time. So I think he's definitely going to get some sort of recognition and knighthood by the time, within the next year or so for the work he's done.
Well, he did good. I mean, the other thing as well, actually, just want to say that I think, Mesut Ozil for Arsenal gets quite a lot of stick from the fans. But I mean, he does quite a lot of stuff in his community as well, doesn't he? For charities and stuff like that. He gives a lot of money to stuff like that. And, it's easy to forget maybe because it's not perhaps in this country so much, which is maybe that side of it. But, he gets a lot of stick as well, Mesut Ozil does. And I think that, he needs to be maybe recognised for the good work that he does as well in, for local communities and stuff like that.
Yeah, and football clubs do it all year round. It's, all year round football clubs are doing things in the community.
Yeah.
Rich, I don't think Mesut Ozil wants the accolade. I think
possibly not.
No, he wants to do it from the kindness of his heart.
Yeah,
there's loads of footballers who do that, who don't want the recognition, because what that does, that gives ammunition to people when they're not doing so well. It's easy for people to turn around and say, you're concentrating too much on your charity work. You've got to play for, they don't want that. So they just do it in the background, anonymously, and let their football do the talking up front.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I just think sometimes, Arsenal fans in particular go constantly on about his contracts and his wages and stuff like that, and criticising his performances on that side of it. But at the end of the day, he's using a lot of that contract to do good stuff, elsewhere, and I think that just needs to be recognised a little bit more. Whether or not he's not doing it for that reason, probably not. I agree, but I do think that Arsenal fans need to appreciate that as well. You know, he's not just there taking money from Arsenal; he's actually doing good with it as well. Apart from the fact that, you know, he's a great player on top of it.
I'd say we have to say that about all fans to all players. You know, these are individual men. You don't know what their personal circumstances are.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. No, I agree. Yeah.
You don't know what their personal circumstances are. So, you know, it's just a bit weird. Just me as a man telling another man what he should do with his money, I just find strange personally.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they at the end of the day, they bring a lot of money in, don't they, to the clubs as well. You know, what they earn, it's not, you know, that money's coming from somewhere, isn't it? Sponsorships and all kinds of stuff, people buying their shirts and all that kind of thing, you know. So I just say let them crack on. As far as I'm concerned, they deserve what they get. You know, we'd all have that opportunity, wouldn't we? You know, I know Kev's been lucky enough to be there, but, you know, we'd all have loved that opportunity, wouldn't we?
Yeah. And listen, one thing I will say, Rose might be able to help me on this one. Everton have the community side. Everton in the community is the #1 in the Premier League.
Brilliant. Yeah. You know, it is about on the pitch, but yeah, it's something that makes you really proud about off the pitch, the work that they do in schools, you know, food banks. I think actually, it was announced all of the Everton staff and players took at least a 30 to 50% pay cut. So we do good stuff all year round. Just got to sort it out on the pitch, really, but off the pitch, we're great.
Everybody doing their bit. It needs everything. It needs it because Everton are playing catch up.
And this is another thing that the
pandemic
has done. It's shown the class of certain clubs and the non-class of other clubs that have tried using government handouts and things like that. And that
who on earth you mean, Ryan?
Well, I've got a list.
I think there's one in particular top of your list.
Yeah, Tottenham. No, what annoyed me about that more so than anything, not just that they went to the government for government handout along with other clubs, but the owner, 24 hours prior to this, took a massive bonus himself because of whatever he had in his contract. I'm like, but you're not looking after the staff. You want us to look after the staff, the government to look after the staff. Sorry. And obviously Liverpool they went to do it and then backtracked when their ex-players actually slated them publicly, which I thought was right. And from the ex-players' point of view, Bournemouth, I think, was it Bournemouth, Norwich, and Newcastle. Newcastle, no, there was no surprise there because look at the current owner he's not the most how can I put it, nicest of people.
Well, he's in the process of selling it as well, Ryan, isn't he? So he don't care.
He's taking forever to do it, though.
But he don't care. He don't care.
But he's literally taking forever. But yeah, on the Tottenham, as a local rival, when it comes to seeing, and I saw that, I was like, you just made us. You're making everyone, and the fact that that was never on the table for Arsenal. We kept everything behind closed doors, like other clubs.
Oh, didn't you leak the name of one player who didn't?
Well, someone did. Someone did. We'll find out. It'll come out at some point when Ozil's left who that was.
Yeah.
And that annoyed me as well. That whoever leaked that out didn't. Out of 3 players, literally only leaked Ozil. Why not the other 2? But in terms of actually organising it in the first place, it was all, we're not going to furlough our staff. This is how we're going to do things. It's only when someone leaked to Adrian bloody what's his name, the idiot that bloody Smithers, as some people called him, and then he did what he did, and but I've noticed he's got an agenda against Ozil anyway, so I took no notice of it.
Are you talking about a broadcaster?
No,
the Adrian Durham.
When
you said Durham, there's only one Adrian who annoys everybody else. I know, so it's Durham. Yeah.
He loves Arsenal, doesn't he? He absolutely loves it.
Absolutely.
Because he gets the best. He gets the biggest reaction from Arsenal. You see.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Arsenal give him the power. The fans give him the power because the fans dislike him so much, and he loves it.
Yeah, he gets a kick out of it. Of course he does. But my point was that we've seen mostly the class of Premier League clubs doing the right thing in their communities, and obviously some clubs I've mentioned tried to do something different and not show their class, and it backfired. And I think that's had an effect with Liverpool in the sense of with Werner and their signings, because all of a sudden now they're saying we're not going to make, after chasing him for over a year now, they're now, no, we're not going for no one now. And I've always said, anyone that's tried to furlough their staff, non-playing staff, if you're going to try and do that, you've got no right then in the next transfer window or the following transfer
Yeah, it should be
window
a
to go out
transfer
and
ban.
Yeah.
buy players, because you can't have one rule for one rule for one thing, whilst you're then trying to get rid of staff and furlough, not pay their
Well,
wages.
if they haven't got the money to pay their staff, they can't really have the money to buy new players, can they? Technically, but
You want to
Yeah.
bet?
well,
You
yeah,
want to bet?
it doesn't
Come
work
on,
like that.
guys.
Yeah.
Come
It doesn't
on,
work-
come on.
it
We're
doesn't
talking
work.
about football here.
But no, it doesn't work like that. That's how it should be worked.
No.
You tried to do that. This is the rule now. Next two
Yeah.
windows, no signings whatsoever. And you can't.
Listen,
and you
it
can't add
would
on.
be Ryan. It would be nice for it to be that
Hey,
perfect,
But
but
money's money.
football clubs ain't run that way anymore. You know,
No.
back in the day, how it used to be run. You know, stiff upper lip, belt and braces. It's not run. Football clubs ain't run that way. You look at the owners now. The owners are from all over the world now. You know, you got foreign owners, etc. You know, and it's about budgets.
Yeah.
It's about budgets.
Yeah. And
You
also,
have your budgets. You have your transfer budget. You have this budget, that budget. Now, nobody saw this coming.
no.
What's happening with the pandemics and coronavirus, but it's happened. Now, do clubs go into their transfer budget to pay staff? So that's less of a budget there for players. And then what's the fans going to say when we pay the top money or we pay this money and you can't even go out and buy it? No, but we've used it for that. So the clubs have to tread very carefully what they do. Tell you, they have to tread very carefully a lot of the time. And I'm not making a case for furloughing staff, by the way, because these football clubs have enough money to be able to keep staff on. And fair enough, if it goes on for a long time, then fair enough. That's when you could say, look, we're actually running out of that money. We've made a fund. We're running out of that. So if we could furlough, because we've got transfer business to do, you could understand that. But just to jump on it as soon as the furlough thing came, clubs jumped on it, and it was the wrong move. You're right on that sense.
Yeah, and I take my hats off to DT Haman and Jamie Carragher for publicly on numerous channels going in at Liverpool and saying that's not the way to do it. This ain't the way. This ain't Liverpool way. And it's because, and Liverpool actually come out and said it's because of the ex-players' reaction that they did what they did and backed down. But also, you mentioned, Kevin, before about the fitness of squads being stretched. Do you think now we're going to see a lot more of the clubs using their youth in these next 9 games plus FA Cup?
Look, there's quite a few squads teams who have players who their contracts are running out. And when their contracts are running out, some of these players ain't going to play. So when you take seasoned professionals out, you have to fill the gaps, because you're going to need a squad of 20, 24 players to go through these last 9 or 10 games, because they're back to back to back to back. So you've got to get people game time. You've got to get people on the bench. You've got to get people from the bench on the pitch. Get them enough minutes. You know, there's a whole science in all of this. What's going to happen, and the people who manage their squads best, I think you're going to find, they're going to get the best results over the period, because it's kind of like it's a
marathon. It's a marathon, isn't it?
Well, no, it's a sprint now, isn't it? We're in a sprint time, because 9 or 10 games, it's a sprint, bang, 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 back to back. So it's a sprint time. Whoever manages their squad best is gonna get the maximum results, I think.
It's basically also to come down to as well squads recovery, how players are recovering in the 48-hour period they're getting
exactly
for the next game.
But how many of the young players as well from all the squads can step up? They've maybe not played many games previously. They're going to maybe get more game time now. Some of them are going to adapt really quickly and produce good performances, whereas others might not. They might just haven't had the time, and that's going to be key as well, I think.
Well, that's what we're going to find out.
We're
going to find out about some of these youngsters.
And I think that's where it might benefit try not to be biased, but I think that where it's going to benefit Arsenal most, because we've got a good chunk of our squad that are from the youth that have played enough games in the Premier League that will be used either as a sub or 60 minutes here and there, but they've got that experience already, whereas other clubs haven't, because they, like Man City, haven't had to, because they've got the money to throw at the situation that normally, if players have
they've got a really big squad. They've got a really big squad, City. They're in a really, really good position.
They've had a lot out on loan, haven't they, as well? Haven't they? They've had a lot of players on loan.
Yeah, but it all comes down.
I want to hear from Rose, because Everton obviously have got a long injury list.
Very
and they've
long.
got some good talented youngsters.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've got the likes of like Anthony Gordon, he made his debut. We've got, I think there's Beningame as well in midfield, who'll probably be called upon. And who's the third one? Oh yeah, Braithwaite at centre back. So yeah, we've got some good youth prospects that will probably get a run out, which is good in the next few games that they'll be needed. I wanted to say though as well, so we were talking about like transfer budgets and how people probably won't be spending big. Do you think that we'll see like more, even among like the big clubs, do you think we'll see like more loan or even like player swaps than we've probably seen, just because of like the pandemic and the situation we're in? I know probably the one exception I'd say is like Chelsea. The one exception is like Chelsea, because they were under the transfer ban, like they're just spending money like there's nothing. But for the rest of the clubs who've been hit by COVID, what do you guys think?
The player swap thing for me it's a good idea in theory, but practically, you need to find a perfect marriage. So the buying club has to find a selling club that could accommodate the players, the wages of the players that they want to get rid of. So, for example, Barcelona and Juventus have a good relationship. The problem is Barcelona just want to get rid of players they don't want, and Juventus don't want the players that Barcelona want to give them. So even though those two football clubs have a good relationship, they've been trying to negotiate their swap deals, and Barcelona are in serious trouble. They've got an inflated wage bill, and they've wasted a lot of money in the transfer market. And even though they've got a great relationship with Juventus, they can't get the deals done, because you need to find that perfect marriage. I actually think that, it's going to be another thing as well. Kevin can speak to this. Are players going to be willing to say, oh, well, there's no transfer fee, so I'm not going to ask for a bigger wage than I normally get? Our agent's going to say there's no transfer fee, so I'm not going to ask for an inflated, agent fee that would normally happen when money is an exchange between two clubs for a transfer.
Well, if a player's going on a free, then obviously everything else is negotiable. Because whether there's a fee or not, guys, there's a certain amount of money that's there for the recruitment side of a player. Now, let's put it this way: if Rose was going to cost 50 million, so there's 50 million that we got to put aside for Rose, and then we got to negotiate a contract. So if it's a 4-year contract, and let's say the contract's going to be 25 million for 4 years. So that's 75 million out of your budget. So you haven't got to put the 50 million down now over whatever time. So now you're negotiating with Rose. And again, what would cost you 75 million might only cost you 35 million. So the club saved 35 million. Rose has had from 25 million, it's up 10 million. Rose is happy, the club are happy. And that's the way it works. Clubs, there's no easy way around it. There's no easy way around it.
Sort of looking at what happened with Man United and Arsenal with the Sanchez and Mkhitaryan deal, everybody's aware of the fact that Sanchez got inflated wages, but Mkhitaryan did as well. That's why he's on loan at Roma. He got inflated wages because there was no transfer fee involved. Those are the little things that I'm wondering how clubs going to navigate. If you look at Juventus, I know they got Aaron Ramsey on a free transfer. But I'd imagine a swap deal works the same. Players are going to say, well, you didn't pay a fee. I'm normally worth 150 grand a week. Actually, I want 250. And the problem with, this is where the balance between a transfer fee and wages gets really, really murky. Because when you inflate wages, that's guaranteed money you have to pay. And if you give the player too much money, like even Juventus did with Ramsey on a free transfer, who's gonna come and help you and save you in that situation when the transfer doesn't work out? If you look at Juventus, they benefited.
Never too much money, Dan.
For the player or for the club?
No, it's never too much money, because the club ain't gonna pay what they can't afford. Okay, remember, if there's no transfer fee, it suits the club down to the ground because they could stretch the money. And you say that it's guaranteed that they have to pay it. Not if they get rid of the player after 2 years, they don't.
But if they inflate the wages, so if you look at Coutinho, they've had to loan him out because nobody wants to pay that money. Even James Rodriguez at Real Madrid, they've been trying to sell him for like 4 years and they can't sell him.
Yeah, but that's why they loaned them out.
Yeah,
Because there's always takers for these players.
but it still
even
has an
on loan.
impact. But it still has an impact. So United was still paying, 250 grand a week of Alexis Sanchez's wages that could go to a player we want to buy. But
But you took the chance of Sanchez. If Sanchez had hit the ground running at United, would you be talking about his wage?
no, the money well
You'd be
spent.
talking, what a fantastic player. We got him from Arsenal. Yes. You'd be rubbing it in. But that's unfortunate. That's the way it goes. I mean, you look, who would have thought Shevchenko would go to Chelsea and not hit the ground running? It's stuff like that. It's just football, man. It's football.
Every transfer is a gamble anyway, really, isn't it? A player can be great at one club, doesn't mean he's going to be great everywhere he goes. It's just,
right.
Some players fit in better at certain teams, don't they? So every transfer is a gamble, and sometimes it works out, and you get your money back when you sell them on. Sometimes they win you loads of trophies, and sometimes they just don't work out at all, do they?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
From the Arsenal perspective, would you prefer to
Lukaku's another one for you as well.
Yeah, Lukaku role.
Sorry, just saying Lukaku as well. See, players come to you and then they just dip.
Do you know what's funny?
Maybe Man United's too big for some players. I think it is.
You know what's really funny? I remember Man United, Arsenal, and who was it? Chelsea fans all arguing about Lukaku, Morata, and Lacazette, and look how that's worked out. That one summer, big deals for free strikers, and they're all going to potentially could end up being sold. I was going to ask if you look at Lacazette from the Arsenal perspective, looking at your squad, would you prefer to swap him? Are there players that you want to see? Do you think you could do a swap deal for Lacazette if he's going to go, or do you want or do you think you can actually get the transfer fee that he's worth in this climate?
I think we can probably get a transfer fee for him at the moment.
Yeah.
What's he worth?
That's the tricky bit,
He's worth what someone's willing to pay for him, I guess.
Yeah.
But
that's what I'm saying is tricky about the swap deals. How do you agree on, how do you agree what a player's worth? It's really tricky. I don't think there's going to be as many swap deals as people think. I don't think there'll be that many, to be honest. I think there'll be really difficult.
Well, it all depends. Look, the Atletico Madrid were in for Lacazette. He nearly went there before he joined Arsenal.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
We want Thomas Partey. We've been linked with Thomas Partey throughout the lockdown.
Yeah.
If the clubs wanted to, they could come to an agreement, whether it's a swap, whether it's a swap with a little bit on top. You understand what I mean? There's certain ways out to cut the cake. It just depends on if Atletico want Lacazette. We know Arsenal want Partey, so they could come to some agreement. That's the way it might work out.
I think that'd be a good deal for everybody, actually, if that was to happen. I think Lacazette doesn't seem happy at Arsenal anymore. That might be a good move for him. Thomas Partey's been talking that he wants to come to Arsenal, so that would be good for him as well. And I think for the two clubs as well, if there can be some deal there, that would be a really good bit of business, I think, for everyone. But there's a lot of work to do on it, I would imagine.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, definitely. Back at you, Daniel, then, with, as you've mentioned, Sanchez, can you get him off the books?
We'll get him off the books. We'll get him off the books. What will the key factor will be how much of the wages we have to pay. That's really all it is. So he's alleged to be on 450 grand a week, whatever number you believe. So it depends on how much a football club will want to pay off that wages. So if it's 100 grand a week, that's all we can get off his wage. Then he'll go and we'll cover the rest, because that's what's happening now. Inter Milan not paying, his full wages, we're still covering at least half of it.
We'll have him back if you pay all his wages.
The next 4 years.
Yeah, for the next 4 years, yeah. Yeah, I'll have that. Yeah, that'd be a good deal.
It's a tricky one. I think Sanchez going on loan again is the most likely scenario, because I don't think Oli wants that problem in his dressing room. I think there's a reason why Oli got rid of him and Lukaku and didn't make an attempt to get another big name player. I think it's not a coincidence that Man United are targeting strikers with a profile of, backup striker. Ollie's not looking for another big name striker to compete with Martial.
Well, Igalo's an example, isn't it? They just getting Igalo in.
No, but even before Igalo, we were looking at Callum Wilson and players of that ilk. It was clear the club were looking for a profile of player that wasn't going to challenge Martial, which I think is interesting. But with Alexis, he's going out on loan again. I don't think Ollie wants that problem in the dressing room. But those are next season's problems, which is, we don't even know when the transfer window is going to be open. It's really, really sort of, it's very, very, just from my perspective.
We don't even know when next season's going to start yet, do we?
No. Yeah. And it's like with the Jadon Sancho thing, it's been he's coming, he's not coming. We know his shirt number. We know where he's going to live. They know he's going to walk his dog. All of this stuff. And then now it's like one Dortmund member of staff says something, the deal's dead. And you give it two more. Actually, today, the manager said he could go. So now it's back on again. But yeah, life of a football fan.
We've also seen with Timo Werner, apparently, he's basically come out and said, when the Champions League's back, I'm not staying put. I'm not signing an extension. I'm going to Chelsea or whatever.
Well, he has a release clause. So he's in a position of power because of that release clause.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. And we've got Cedric Suarez, David Luiz, who apparently wants to go back to Benfica. That's the rumours. Then out of contract in them up. So they've got all that. The clubs have got that to do. They've got a deadline. That's the one thing we've been told. Anyone that's got players running their contracts out, they've got a deadline to extend it by the 23rd. If it's not extended by the 23rd, they can't extend it any further from then.
23rd of this month?
Yeah.
7 days. Wow.
Yeah. So literally.
So they won't be able to play then for the rest of the season. If they don't extend it by the 23rd, so all the games that's played after that, which is going to be most of them, they wouldn't be able to play.
No, that's what the FA have said.
To be fair, I think isn't it only about 4 players in the entire Premier League anyway whose contracts run out? If we're talking significant players, I mean,
more than that, wouldn't it?
I'm talking sort of
define a significant player because I think Bournemouth have about 4 players, and so they haven't got the biggest squad, so they're going to be significant for Bournemouth.
Yeah. Do you know what it is? I'm a Man United fan. I'm a snob, so I'm just looking at it from my perspective.
I've noticed that about you.
Oh, dear.
I can't relate to Bournemouth problems.
Well, not yet.
Not yet, exactly.
Not yet.
Don't think it'd be too on you.
I thought that a few years ago until we were sort of down near the same position as them in the league a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it happens, doesn't it? Unfortunately, that's
Arsenal back in it now. Don't you think you're back in it? I know it's an outside shot and you've got a tough run in.
But it all depends on tomorrow night, I think.
Tomorrow night's just the next. Yeah, it's that game in hand, isn't it? Really, I mean, I don't know. I think the top 6 now probably is. I think out of Arsenal, Everton, and Man United, I think one of us 3 is going to miss out. Just because I think Wolves will probably stay up there. Sheffield United, we don't know how they're going to kind of cope. But I think definitely one of the 3 of us is going to miss out on that top 6, aren't they? Really, and I'm hoping it's not going to be us, obviously, but who knows?
Yeah. What was it? Lallana was meant to run out, but he's said that he's.
It will definitely be one of you two because we're 12th. So
we've got a good manager now.
Not in that fight, unfortunately.
I mean, it's very tight, isn't it?
Definitely.
One win moves you up 4 places, doesn't it? So I don't think anybody's out of it.
Well, literally, if we win tomorrow, we go up to 6th or 7th in the league. We're
2 points off the top 5, aren't we? If we win,
yeah, if we win, it's a big if though, because it is Man City. Let's bring it back to reality there. But you said that, one win can push you up them places.
Yeah. I mean, with the games coming so quick as well, if a team can get on a run 2 or 3 wins in a row, anybody in the mid table here is going to shoot right up there, aren't they?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
it's possible for anyone.
This could come back and bite me, but I reckon if we were to win our first 3 games since all away as well, all away from home, our games, surprise. If we win them first 3, I think we've got a good chance of at least getting 5th, which could be a Champions League spot, depending on what happens with City. Because we don't know, we won't find out until next month, apparently, when that's been sorted.
In a way, it's like a clean slate, though, isn't it, for everybody? So, we could easily win our first 3 games, but equally we could lose all 3 as well. And that can be the same for everybody because nobody's got you've got no form to go on, have we? So it's just starting again in a way. It's just, every game we're just going to have to take it as it comes for everybody and see where we are.
Hey, Ryan, Richard, you trust our back four to keep City out?
Well,
No.
um,
Sorry,
Well,
I'm an Arsenal man, but no chance. No chance.
We might score
No
3 or
chance.
4. You never know.
It's a good time to play City, though. It might
Yeah.
be rusty. Their football requires a certain level of sharpness, I'd say.
Yeah, good time to play Arsenal as well.
Every
Well.
time.
That's the problem. See, that's the problem.
Yeah,
You know, it's a good time to play City, but it's also a good time to play Arsenal. You know,
Would you be happy? Would you be happy with a 0-0? Just to draw, score
I
a
would.
draw.
I'd take your hand off now for a draw. I would take your hand off for a draw now, because especially when players start getting tired, and then they can start bringing on their quality. That's where I think for an hour I think we could be in it, but you know they're going to start bringing on and moving and adjusting. I'm not.
Do you not think their style of play though requires that energy that maybe and that sort of sharpness that they won't have yet?
Well, they might not have it, but they're going to have more of the ball than us. That's the problem. When you're chasing the ball, it's harder. It's not harder to chase the ball than keep the ball.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, with like City's, like we saw with City's squad depth, where they've got Mahrez to bring off the bench, David Silva to bring, and then they're 5 subs, and then their youth players as well. I just think, they'll be.
We just have to be 3-0 up after 60 minutes, won't we? Then that's done, and then we just have to hang on and get a 3-0 draw.
To be fair, sorry, right? Wasn't the pattern before football was suspended? You guys were playing good for 45 minutes. You'd have an excellent 45 minutes, and in the second half you drop off a little bit.
When Arteta first came in,
we'd die after an hour, maybe an hour.
And then just before this happened, it was literally it would go on. As Kevin just said, we'd get to the hour and then drop off. So the fitness was getting there. It just the squad he inherited was fitness levels were absolute for what he wants.
I don't think anybody's going to go flying in the first 20 minutes, are they? I think everybody's going to kind of ease themselves back into the game, aren't they? I don't think anybody's going to, no team's going to be 3 or 4-0 up in 20 minutes, are they? In any of these first few games?
Hey, Rich, don't say that. Jesus, don't say that. With our track record, my God.
At Man City as well, I think the last two years we've conceded early there, haven't we, in the first 5 minutes?
Exactly.
But I'm hoping that's not going to be the case this time.
Also, Arsenal in recent times have had that history of thriving when the pressure's not on us. When the pressure's not on us, like the FA Cup final in 2017, not even our own fans gave us a chance, and we did what we did. We were the best team of the day.
Yeah,
and we obviously won the FA Cup.
That's how we got in the top 4 a lot of times, wasn't it? Once it looked dead, and once the league was gone, we put a good run at the end of the season together, didn't we? We did that so many times, and but I think there is pressure on us now, though, isn't there? Not necessarily in that game tomorrow, but for the rest of the season, it is, because we have to be in Europe, don't we, next season? I think so. I think there is pressure on us now with the fact we've got to make ground up on, on some teams that haven't been losing many games.
Rich, I beg to differ on Arsenal need to be in Europe. I beg to differ. Why would you say they need to be in Europe?
Well, I think from a financial point of view, do you not think?
No, I don't, because look, when Klopp went to Liverpool and they had a season outside of Europe.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
So, and then, but that allowed him to then go week to week, play on a Saturday, play on the next Saturday, and he can get his coaching right. Because when you're playing in Europe, you can't coach. You're just constantly recovering. So to be able to get the coaching right, what's his name? Who was at Chelsea? Who's at?
Is it Conte?
Conte, that's the one.
Conte, yeah.
Conte went to Chelsea. Chelsea were out of Europe as well. What happened? He could get his coaching right, week to week to week. These are the basics. These are the basics. Implement the foundation of the football club on the training ground. Normally, you don't. When you're in Europe, you don't get the opportunity to do that. I think this Arsenal, and I don't think we're going to have a lot of money to invest. I think Arteta's going to need to be able to get those players fully focused on that training ground. If Arsenal qualify for Europe, fantastic. I'll take that because it's more money in the coffers. But for me, as a player, understanding what has to be implemented at the football club, it wouldn't bother me if we didn't make Europe. I tell you.
Do you not think it might affect who might possibly come into the club transfer-wise? I mean, would Partey come to Arsenal if we're not in Europe at all? Do you think? Would that have a factor on it?
Yeah, no, I think he would come. I do. I think he would come because of Arteta. I really do. And players were going to Chelsea, players were going to Liverpool, and they weren't in Europe. Arsenal were right up there with them. So why wouldn't they come?
Yeah.
You know, it's there has to be some flip of the flip of the switch. There's got to be a flip of the switch, and it might take us not to be in Europe to get that flip.
Well, I'd certainly take it. I'd take one season out of Europe if it meant we came back and ended up winning the Premier League in 2 years, definitely. But, you know, I suppose we won't know that. That would be more of a hindsight thing, won't it? Afterwards, we'll see. I mean, it could go the other way. We could be out of Europe for 1 year and then might not get back in it for 6 years. Bearing in mind, Newcastle getting taken over, if that happens with the money they might have to spend. And, you know, it might mean we don't get back in there again.
Well, if we don't get back in there, we've only got ourselves to blame because we haven't had a plan for such a long time. Even Everton now, Everton are having a plan. United now are getting their act together. United are having a plan. What's Arsenal? What's been Arsenal's plan?
Well, this is what I was saying. I was on another channel the other night. And I was saying, there's a lot of pressure now, not on Stan Kroenke and Joss to get it right now, because obviously we made a comparison of when Van Persie left and what he was saying behind what his ambition wasn't being matched by the club. And what after having a meeting with Ivan Gazidis and Arsene Wenger. And obviously, Aubameyang the last few days has said this is the point of his career. He wants to win things. It's like we're comparing like the two situations, and I've said if Aubameyang does go now, this summer or next, you've got to look at the board, not just the board, but the owner, because then that's happened twice in a matter of years, and it's the same words being used every time.
Well, it's happened more than twice when you think about it, hasn't it? You think how many times over the last 10 years that we've lost.
Yeah. You lost the Nelka.
Fabregas, Nasri have all gone, haven't they? We've lost some top players, you know, for similar reasons over the years, haven't we? So it's not just, unfortunately, it won't just be twice, will it? It'll be probably 10 times.
What I meant was, both times, both our club captains at the time, both saying the exact same thing about the club. And if it goes on and he does leave to a rival in the Premier League or whatever, and that's another thing that done me over about Van Persie at the time. We sold him to United, a rival, and obviously that was the key for them.
Dan laughing. Look at him. Stop giving him ammunition.
But no, as a fan,
he was rubbish at United anyway, wasn't he?
After one season.
That one title was all we needed from him. It was well worth it.
That's all he wanted as well, wasn't it? That's all he wanted. So
it's interesting what
if it was to happen, if it was to happen again, if another club captain to say the exact same things and leave in the exact same manner, the fans will then be surely did up the ante and have not taking it out on the board, but actually the owner, because it's the owner then. It's because that's the one consistent in both situations, that the ownership, nothing else, everything else has changed within the club apart from recruitment, which is I'll get onto later. Another show.
Because the issue with so I was just going to say, I think as a Man United fan, obviously, especially a Man United fan growing up in London, Arsenal's the biggest rivalry for me. And what I've noticed with both our fan bases is we're not truly invested in the long-term rebuild. We're always looking for that glimmer of hope that we can, get to the top quicker than is, more likely to happen. That's one of the reasons why there are a lot of Man United fans who want Ollie out and want Poch in, because if Poch comes in, they can raise the expectations quicker and that hope is there to get back to the top quicker. But for me, I'm well prepared for us not to get back to the top for 4 to 5 years. And you know what? At the end of the day, no player is bigger than a football club. If Aubameyang leaves, he leaves, and you guys have to push the reset button. And you've invested in a young coach in Arteta, whose ideas they brought Arteta in because they think he's one of those coaches in the next 5 years who's going to have the best ideas in European football. So you might just need that reset. And like Kevin said, no European football, especially Europa League Thursday night. You don't want that. You do not want that Thursday night football. It's a hinder. I just wanted to ask Rose quickly. One thing I've looked at Everton sort of their plan, where they seem to be recruiting players from top football clubs who didn't quite make it, but clearly have good quality. And I just wanted to sort of know see how Rose felt about sort of that strategy that Everton seem to be deploying at the moment.
Yeah. So we do tend to be. I think we've been linked with actually Pereira from you guys in the last couple of days as well. I think I'd be more. I mean, it has worked and hasn't. So if I kind of use the examples like Schneiderlin, Delph, but then you see, so we've done that, and those two haven't really worked. And so I kind of want us to move away from going to the bigger clubs and saying, okay, who you finished with, and then we'll take them. Because we're kind of going to Barcelona as well. So we signed Mina and Dean from Barcelona. And I kind of
think
want us to go
I
for the
think
younger
Gomez-
prospects. And Gomez as well, yeah. So we signed those three from Barcelona. And those three look solid, look great, because you don't play for Barcelona for nothing. And so we're doing that. But like we're also being linked with Thiago Silva as well, who's 35 and at PSG. And I think he'd be a great leader. But we said the same about Delph and about Rooney when we signed him back. And seeing Rooney back in an Everton shirt as a young Evertonian was just great, but didn't have, the impact that a lot of us wanted it to have. So I'm kind of torn now, where I'm thinking that we should build on our youth, like Gordon, Kenny, play those players, put them in the first team, and then maybe sign a Thiago Silva who can just, as you say, like lift the profile of the club, lift the expectations. And I think Ancelotti, having him as manager, will just, we're already attracting those sorts of names. So I don't know if that was a clear answer, but I'm kind of torn really on where Everton should go, because we have tried to sign players from good clubs in the Premier League and it hasn't always worked out. And so I guess, build on our youth and potentially go for those fantastic leaders who have won loads of trophies to try and push that into Everton's mentality. Because I think,
Rose, it's the caliber of player, isn't it? That has to come into the building. I think that's the important part. Signing players who have been at other clubs who have done okay is one thing, but people got to realize Everton's a huge club. Everton is a huge club. And the expectation, Everton have been languishing at times, but the expectation is always there. So you've got to bring in leaders who know how to handle that pressure.
Exactly.
That's who you have to bring in. And Thiago Silva, he knows, captain of Brazil, he's been captain Brazil, he's been captain at PSG, he knows exactly what's needed. He's a top player,
Definitely.
He's a top defender, and he could help the players around him as well. That's the other key.
Well, so definitely. So I made a video about this, and I said even though he's 35, I'd bring him in because we've got Holgate who's like 23, we've got Braithwaite who's really young, Gibson's 19, we've got Mina who's 25. So if we have one who's got the experience of Thiago Silva, then he can actually help them going forward. So absolutely, I'd sign him.
And Ancelotti will be able to get some players as well, won't he? A lot of players will want to play for Ancelotti as well, won't they?
Yeah. I think he's got his own one or two from Napoli as well, centre midfielder from Napoli, a right dog, a ratter. A ratter, because listen, Idrissa Gueye, when he was at Everton, he done a really good job in centre midfield. Then PSG bought him and he's not been replaced. Gabamine has been injured. He's had a really tough time at Everton. It just seems he can't do right from doing wrong. Every time he gets himself kind of fit, he breaks down again. So they need somebody in there who's going to put their foot in and rat in there. And, this lad from Napoli seems to be a choice that Ancelotti likes.
I think it's all down to getting the balance right, with youth and experience, getting that balance spot on. And recruitment, obviously. That's the main three parts. Get that all sorted. You're flying away then.
We did it back in the day. Sorry, even as Fergie did it when he brought in Blanc to play next to Rio just for a season. There's just benefits to bringing players of a certain caliber with that experience, with a particular level of pedigree. Even if it's instilling, I don't know what the right word is, but just laying some foundations down of that winning mentality within the football club, within the culture. Something you can't really measure with results in the immediate, but in the future it will benefit you.
Dan, I'll tell you what else happens when the likes of Laurent Blanc comes in or a Thiago Silva. When they come into the football club, well-renowned players, winners, captains, and got all the experience, everybody starts to take notice. Even in the training, everybody's level starts going up. And that's what happens when you bring in that type of quality and that type of experience into a football club. No matter what club you are, whether you're Manchester United, Arsenal, Everton.
But
If I
Arsenal
can
don't
link
tend
it
to
back
do that, do they?
to,
Arsenal never really done that, have they? They never buy them players, do they? They never buy the high-profile players, Arsenal, do they?
I was
Well,
going to say, if I link it back to Arsenal.
Go on, Rose. Sorry, love.
What Van Persie said, because I read that, because obviously I can relate in the sense that when Everton have a really high profile player in form, you're always concerned that the bigger clubs are going to start looking. So when Van Persie said that, and he said about with you guys, when he looked around in training, and when he first joined, he saw Bergkamp, Henry, Sol Campbell, he saw Pires, he saw like all these players. And he was okay. I better raise my game. And then when he was leaving, and when was it City and United were interested in him, he looked around and he saw himself as a leader, but maybe he saw a couple. I'm not sure if Nasri was still with you, and maybe Sanya, like those kind of players. But he just thought, well, this club doesn't match, where I joined, where you had all those world class players, and then when and that's kind of. I'd kind of compare Arsenal and Everton there, because I know you guys still have a few more class players than we do, but like we both need to just raise our games essentially.
I think it's the plan as well, Rose. I think
Yeah,
it's the plan.
definitely.
Arsenal don't look. Arsenal. We know Arsenal have needed a centre half and a holding midfielder. How long have we known?
Years. Since Vieira.
What is it? A
Since
decade?
Vieira.
Is it a decade, guys?
Yeah.
About 15 years.
At
Yeah,
least.
and it's still not been rectified. Why? Nobody could tell me why it hasn't been rectified. If you know you've got a hole in your shoe and you keep walking outside in the rain, you can't complain that when your feet get wet, can you? You've got to put something there to block it, or you've got to put another sole on, or change your shoes.
Is what Tony Adams was on Sky Sports a couple of weeks ago, and he said recruitment comes down to recruitment. Until Arsenal get a plan in place and sort out the recruitment of the club, which again falls under Stan Kroenke. Why isn't he looking into sorting this? We're in the end of the loop. It's just going round and round.
Isn't Raul in charge of the transfers now? And they aren't those two in charge of the transfers? And I mean,
effectively, yeah.
I thought Edu left or he's leaving. No.
Okay.
No,
he just joined us last summer. Yeah, he's happy. He's the reason we got Martinelli last summer as well. Which is, and we've been into a few other Brazilian players this summer as well, South American players. Raul with his contacts, because Raul was not afraid to use the agents he knows. Hence why we got Pepe as well, in the manner that we did of the breakdown of payments and this, that, and the other. But until we get a plan in place, and every summer, if there's a weakness, we sort that weakness, we fix it straight away. We're just going to be an endless loop like we have been for the last 15, 16 years. I mean, 16 years ago, we won the league. Undefeated. Take that out of the equation, we won the league. 16 years later, we haven't won one since.
No, it doesn't feel like 16 years though, does it? Or is it just me? It doesn't feel that long ago. I mean, I know obviously it was, but it's
that's the trick, Richard. That's the trick. Do you reckon Liverpool's 30 years?
I know, yeah.
Would you have said that? Their last title was 1990. Would you have said in 1990 Liverpool won't win a title for 30 years?
Yeah. Well, Man United went 26 years, didn't they, as well?
Yeah, but you would have said no. But that Liverpool team were all conquering.
Yeah.
There's no way you would have said Liverpool won't win a title for 30 years. What are you talking about? You're talking crap. No, but the years fly by if you don't make the adjustment. You don't have the plan.
Do you know what? There's actually there's a big problem I've noticed with United and Arsenal, right? Is when we make a bad signing, we don't recover that situation quickly enough. So if you look at City, for example, before they signed Laporte, let's not forget what they went through before they got him. They signed Mangala, didn't work out, loaned him out. Obviously, they kept Stones and Otamendi, and the presence of Company while those guys were around was really, really good. But now he's gone, they're in a similar situation. That's one area where they haven't recruited. But at United, we signed Darmian under LVG, over inflated his value, couldn't sell him, keep him at the football. There was a time when I forgot he was a Manchester United player. He wasn't out on loan. He just wasn't in the squad for about 3 months. We don't move these guys on. Phil Jones is still there. Marcus Rojo's still there. We've only just loaned out Chris Smalling, and trust me, if that doesn't happen, we don't buy Maguire. That was a wage bill issue. All right, you've gone out on loan. We can spend big on a centre back now. And I've noticed sort of, you guys invested, I think, 35 million in Mustafi. And then once you did that, because you didn't resolve it, that was your lot. And then you started going for bargain players like Socrates. How much does Socrates cost you?
Too much.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, no, for what he's done for us, it's too much.
For what he's done, I think it would be fair. But I think both clubs have to do better. If you look, once a player's been in your football club for like a year or two, you have to know his ceiling and have mechanisms in place, links to other football clubs to get these guys out the door. And that's one of the things that we do at United far too often is we put players on too much money. There aren't a lot of clubs that can just take a player on 120 grand a week, just like that, because you want to get rid of him and pay the fee that you want.
But you won't get him in the first place, Dan. That's the problem. Remember, the recruitment game is look what I've got. That my club is the best and the shiniest. Okay, but to recruit them in, you have to pay them.
Yeah,
and don't forget, there's other clubs interested in them as well. And the other issue there is if you don't sign them and they do well somewhere else, what do you say? We had him in our building. We could have recruited him, but he's gone somewhere else. And look, we're struggling now. We should have bought him. So that in turn, when the next one comes up, you do everything to get him. You pay him that money because money shouldn't be the object because you can afford it. But it's when it don't work out. When it don't work out, then you're left saying, okay, what can we do with him? But that's the nature of the game now. You've got to pay some of their wages to go somewhere else on loan. Clubs can afford it.
Yeah,
the clubs can afford it.
I think it's not
United have been very slow doing that. Very slow. It's only in the last sort of 18 months we've started loaning players out that we don't need. And it's like you should have did that 4 or 5 years ago. Only player we sold at the right time was Schneider into Everton. No shade at Everton roles, but that's the only time we signed the player.
Yeah, we'll take them. It's all right.
And
thanks a bunch, Dan. Another one of my team. He's a bad guy, this guy.
Well, I think look.
Yeah, no, I was. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, go on. It's fine. Go on.
Oh no, I was going to say. Sorry, is it Dan?
Yeah.
United fan. Okay, yeah. No, I was going to say, Dan. Like, you guys are getting it together now. Like bringing in Wan-Bissaka, Dan James, Maguire, like players who, like, they don't necessarily have that thing that you're talking about with Sanchez. Like they, I think they're like a different kind of player. I know you're still paying like pretty high salaries and fees and stuff, but I think it's going in the right direction and the Solskjaer for you guys. So
yeah, Ollie has a plan. He has a strategy. It's let's sign British players that are proven or on the come up and are more likely to succeed in this country. They don't have to learn a new language. They don't have to, we've seen what happened with Di Maria recently, whereas it came out that his wife was the one that made him unhappy in Manchester, not Di Maria himself, But then, of course, you want to, if you can find international players that are of the right caliber, you bring them in as well, and you balance the two. And thing is, but it's still, with the Maguire deal, I think it was a great signing, and I think he's been better than people give him credit for. But we'll pay for that this summer now because we paid 8 million up front for him in cash, and everybody knows that. And so now we're looking at it like, if you can pay up front in cash. You guys said Ole Gunnar Solskjaer actually came out, made a big error, Ollie, when he said this. We can exploit the market. And that's probably one of the reasons you've heard Dortmund say, okay, yeah, he's still worth 100 mil. You have a clear run this summer. Do you really want him that badly, or do you want to wait a year when you're going to have more competition? It's this cat and mouse game. But I think under Ollie, the strategy seems to be better. He's not making selfish decisions. Look, Sanchez on paper would have been a good deal, but prior to that signing in January that season, he had Martial and Rashford battled it out for that position. And by the way, Rashford outdone Martial over that sort of 3-4 month period up leading to that. And then he gets Sanchez in to overtake those two players. In my opinion, that's a selfish decision from a manager who's looking for results. Ollie left his squad a bit thin because he saw the long-term benefits. We could have went out and maybe spent £40 million on a forward or a striker this summer. He said he couldn't find the right ones. And, it will benefit you in the short term if you just take that hit. And now we've ended up in a situation where Martial's our number one. Whatever your thoughts on Martial, is he still a quality player? Igalo and Mason Greenwood, over a 38-game season, between them, they'll get you 20 goals in every competition. So he has that. So now our striking positions from back to front, from first team player to backup player, is sorted. That's why Jadon Sancho. We haven't had a player on the right hand side since we signed Antonio Valencia. He's the last natural winger on the right that we signed, and I think that was back in 2010. So we're talking 10 years since we signed a natural right winger, which is
Dan. Your issue is Jadon Sancho's more effective on the left.
But he does switch over to the right. I've seen Jadon Sancho move positions in the game and have an impact immediately. I think his qualities. I do know he starts on the left for the most part, but I don't think, like Jack Grealish, I think when you have the ability to beat a man, I'm not making that excuse for you. If you could beat a man on the left, you need to beat a man on the right as well. And one aspect of Jadon Sancho's game that people don't give him credit for, off the ball, he's lethal. He is absolutely lethal. He knows he's got speed, so he just runs off the back of people. And he tells me, right, keep up with me. I'm attacking that space. Can you keep up? And often they don't. So I think, I think Sancho would be a great signing. But I'm not going to get too. Had my hopes up too much.
What are you moaning about? Pay the money then.
I wish we would. Saying that very quickly, on Arsenal and Arteta. I'm sorry, I'm going to be the bad guy again. But from my perspective,
again.
Yeah, I am. I just have to say it. I always felt like you guys were cheapskates when you had Champions League football. So what's going to change now? Now you don't have Champions League football. You're going to tighten the purse strings even more. So that sort of leaves your recruitment is going to have to be 8 out of 10 bare minimum, 8.5, 9 out of 10 under Arteta. If you don't get Champions League or European football,
we kind of need Arteta to do what Wenger did when he first came, get some sort of fairly cheap players no one's really heard much about, and turn out to be a top Vieira type player, Thierry Henry when he brought them in. But whether that's possible to do this time, I don't know. I think it is coaching as well, though, isn't it? Let's not underestimate how good a coach he's going to be, and I think that's equally as important as well, isn't it, to improve the players that you've got. If you can't buy the top players because you haven't got the money, or you're not going to spend the money on them, then you've got to improve what you've got. And I think maybe that's where we've maybe fell down in the last few years, whereas now I think Arteta has already improved a lot of players who were struggling before. So I think that's important as well. It's not just necessarily about buying new players. That's important, but if you can improve what you've got, the young players that we've got coming through, there's a good opportunity there to take us forward. I mean, I think without a few good signings, we're not going to sort of challenge Liverpool or Man City anytime soon. But if we can get ourselves back, sort of back to Chelsea sort of level, challenging clubs like that again, with the players that we've got now, then we can push on from there, can't we? And then start. But I think, like Kev said before, the plans, what we need to have a plan in place now, and whether that's going to be with the young players now for 3 or 4 years, and try to obviously get ourselves back in the top 4 again, and then start recruiting again, or whether or not they're going to say, right, let's go for it now, let's recruit 5 or 6 players now and start from there. But that depends on what the plan is. We don't really know, do we? Yet.
Do you see that change coming?
Not at the moment, I can't see it. I think we're going to have to rely on Arteta's coaching ability and getting what he can get out of what we've got. And, a few maybe sort of lesser signings coming in. I mean, if we can get Partey in, then I think that's going to be that might give us the message. Yeah, I think if we get him in, and I think that's showing what maybe the plan is going to be then, to start recruiting players of that level. But if we don't get him, or we're not going to pay the money or whatever it is, and we end up with another transfer window maybe like last summer, then I think that will show exactly how much the club are backing Arteta or not, and what the plan is going to be. At the moment, it's difficult to say, isn't it, really? I'm hopeful that if Arteta gets the backing, we can be successful again. It's just how much backing he's going to get.
Well, Wayne seems to agree that he thinks Arteta will follow Wenger's blueprint of recruitment when he first came in as well.
He might not have a choice, mightn't he? That's going to be the thing. Yeah. He might not have that choice. He might have to do that, and hopefully he can.
The one problem with that was when Arsene Wenger came in, he had the back 5 or back 6, should I say?
Yeah,
he had those experienced players who'd won things, who'd won titles, who'd kept record clean sheets, conceded the least amount of goals. He had those players, so that's the foundation to build on. I could build around that. But
As
Arteta doesn't have that,
yeah.
unfortunately.
As I said to you, Kevin,
No,
and
he
your
doesn't.
channel when you had me on for that, there's a lot of comparisons you can make between Arteta now and the situation he walked into to what George Graham did as
George
well.
Graham worked into you.
They're very similar situations, not just from an ex-player's point of view in the sense that they both played for Arsenal, but as in they came into a bad situation, weren't really the number one choice for the fans, by the fans in terms of, but came in and they had effectively a young Tony Adams just come through. Yourself, you're coming through. Rocky, Mickey
Michael
Thomas, and all that.
Thomas,
Michael
Mercer,
Mercer, all coming through.
Martinez, all them guys, yeah.
No real winners. Like a core, he had to build that. That's what I think. What the situation Arteta's in, but with our now, and the way football is now, there's more pressure on Arteta and to do it quicker, if it makes sense, because of how much competition there is now in the Premier League.
It was a bit easier, wasn't it, when George Graham came in, I think, in terms of the strength of the league. I mean, you had Liverpool and Everton at the time as well, were sort of winning the league every year between them. But other than that, Watford came second one year, didn't they? Southampton came second. So it was easier to get back up there again at that time. That's not dismissing what great job George Graham did. I'm just thinking now for Arteta, it's a lot harder, isn't it? Because even just getting in the top six now is very, very difficult, isn't it? And you need to have a team that's, probably better than what we've got. Like Kev said there, we don't have that sort of spine already in the team, do we? He's almost got to build that from scratch almost, and that's not going to be an easy job, is it?
But also, I think this pandemic as well, this break may have benefited Arteta as well in the sense of, because even though he's saying it's hard to communicate over screens, he's doing that, and he'll still be able to see going forward past this season who's going to be part of his plans, who isn't quite up to the mark, a bit like George Graham said when he came in, them not up north, in red, they're the team to beat. This is where we want to be. This is what he's effectively, again, he's come into, because Liverpool are up there, they're the team to beat. But he's having to set a standard, and he said, if you can't meet the standard, you've got a next time frame this summer. If you don't meet it, I'll help you get out the door. And I think that's what, again, Arteta's having to do. But I think that's what this has benefited him. So he can, again, even though it's not face to face, he's been able to see over certain group chats that they've been having.
I mean, he did say, didn't he? He did say the other day, actually, I saw an interview with Arteta, and he said that he spent a lot of time over the lockdown kind of looking at the sort of understanding his players individually, their needs and, and their mental health states and all this kind of stuff as well. And I think that might prove to be really sort of useful as well going forward. If he understands them players individually more, understanding what they need to get more out of them on the pitch.
Well, it could be a mass exodus then, couldn't it?
But it could be. It could be.
Them, geez.
Maybe that's what's needed, Kev. Maybe that's what's needed.
Yeah.
That could be a good thing, because that first summer, his first really big window is going to be really important. Oli signing Maguire and Wan-Bissaka and just settling that back four, making major upgrades, is going to benefit us moving forward. I still think we need to complete that rebuild of the back four or the back five. But, we've got Henderson coming through, who seems like he's going to replace De Gea. But just that first window was crucial. Just need some key signings. All right. Yeah. Thankfully, they've worked out. Maybe we got lucky. That's worked out. But now we can focus on other areas of the team. Arteta, his first window is going to be key. If you can just, like Kevin Campbell said, that centre-back, how long has it been since you had a world-class centre-back in that team? It's been far too long, really and truly.
Far too long. For a couple of Arsenal, far too long. But also, as I said about Arteta, I think with Everton, they're in the same situation as well with Ancelotti. He's got to figure out who's going to fit his philosophy going forward, who isn't, get out the deadwood and bring in what he can add and build up. Because for a couple like Everton not to win a trophy since '95, it's outstanding.
Yeah, since I was born, the year I was born, actually. So, it's honestly, it was ridiculous that I just getting close. I know we've been close a few times, like under Moyes and even Martinez. But like you say, it is just about having a plan, and actually Ancelotti now and Marcel Brands as well. I think those two together. I think it's actually a big summer for Marcel Brands as well. In terms of signings that he makes as well and suggests to the club.
And also, I think when Ancelotti came in, I think it was very not brave, but very good that he kept on Duncan, because obviously Duncan wanted the job in the first place again.
Yeah, definitely.
It was really good of him to not just turf him out, like bring him in part of the thing. And again, he's then getting that understanding of what it means from an Everton perspective, because he's an Everton man as well, like as Kevin will know, because he's played with him.
Yeah.
So
the irony of you saying that, David Moyes, when he came to United, letting Mike Phelan and Benny Mullisteen leave. Just
no, absolutely, absolutely. I think it's really, really important. I mean, I'm linking it back to the first conversation that we had, talking about like atmospheres and the crowds. I mean, I'm sure Carlo Ancelotti must have seen the crowd and Marco Silva was becoming really toxic at home as well, really negative. But Duncan Ferguson there with his suit and sweatband on, like it's great that he's assistant.
Running on the pitch,
jumping up
running around,
like in bloody ball boys and all that.
Yeah. Even as a neutral, I love
exactly.
I love to see that, seeing Duncan Ferguson on the touchline for Everton.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine how Everton fans would react to it.
But what we got, I'm gonna say something here, but obviously a lot of this don't get mentioned. Duncan Ferguson, for his first game against Chelsea, he changed the system.
Yeah,
he went 4-4-2. He put 2 players up front, and they battered Chelsea. Chelsea had more possession, but I think Everton made more tackles in that game than they have done for a decade in any game. What does that tell you? So it's not rocket science, guys. It's not rocket science. Put 2 up top. Deal with our front 2. We're going to back you up, and we're going to tackle, and we're going to fight. He brought that. The 12th man were involved, and Everton absolutely battered Chelsea.
And then got a result against United at Old Trafford as well.
Exactly.
And Duncan wasn't afraid to make the big calls as well in his brief time as the head coach.
With the Moyes team, and
again, because he has that Everton connection as from a player to coming through the system as a coach. It was good to see Ancelotti actually bring him into his own fold and bring all that and bring that experience of the Everton feel into the actual coaching setup as well. So it helps him. And again, there's the excitement there as well. So there's a lot of excitement around Man United of Ollie and what he's doing and not what his plan is. Obviously, Arsenal, we're literally, we don't even know the plans yet, but it's exciting because, again, these managers have brought the excitement back to our clubs respectively. I mean, going into this, before this break happened, with the same squad that Dracula had back in the beginning of the season, we're now, with the same squad, Arteta's made us harder to beat, more organised. They work as a team.
Dracula.
Is it Dracula?
Yeah, Dracula.
Unai Dracula, is it?
Emery,
He did look a bit like Dracula, didn't he?
Oh, okay.
Bram Stoker's Dracula.
First as well. Until he last summer, he had the teeth as well to go with it. But it was with the same squad of players. Now, with Messi, Arteta came into, the fitness levels are so bad. Just before this happened, the break, we were actually keeping clean sheets with this defence. We're more organised. We're coming back, working as a team. Any youth players that have been having to be used for injuries or whatever, the experienced players like Aubameyang and David Luiz were actually helping them out and not just isolating and leaving them alone. And this is what Arteta's brought. He's like, we're not an individual team, focus on one player or whatever. We are as one. And again, in this pandemic, he had an interview with Ian Wright, a part of Adidas thing, I think it was. And he said he wants players that want to be here, not for the money or anything, that want to be here to win things and to achieve. He doesn't want to have to convince you to come to the club or stay at the club, because if you do, that he doesn't want that, because
he said he shouldn't have to, didn't he? He said you shouldn't have to convince someone to come to Arsenal. It's Arsenal, and you should want to play for Arsenal.
And if he had to, and if he has to, he wouldn't feel comfortable with that player, because in the first place, I've had to convince you either way. And again, that I think we haven't had that honesty because Wenger was he would say certain things, but he wouldn't actually come out and he would keep everything behind closed doors. Emery was just saying we couldn't understand a word. He said it'd be one thing to the next, and in the same interview, for crying out loud.
But he said good evening well, didn't he? That was one good thing I liked.
He literally learned 2 words. Yeah.
That literally was a highlight of every single match, wasn't it? His pre-match interview was literally that was a highlight of it, wasn't it? That was all there was to look forward to after a while. But anyway,
but yeah, it's just Arteta as well. For someone who hasn't had the head coach role ever, this is his first head coach. He's not been making mistakes so far that Emery was making, and Emery was a seasoned pro. We went for this is what other fans in the Arsenal fan base don't get. We wanted the experience. We went for the experience. The guy that won 3 European Cups back to back. We went for that, and look how that panned out. We've now got, and Arteta. Let's not forget, Arteta was the front.
But what you've also got to remember as well is Ancelotti was available at the time when we didn't have a manager.
Yeah,
and he's won everything there is to win in the game. You know, and
available. Allegri as well.
And we didn't go for Ancelotti, did we? You know, we ended up going for Arteta, which is a typical Arsenal appointment in a way. You know, Arsenal have never brought in a top name manager. They never bring in top name players. That's just Arsenal's way, isn't it? You know, Man United will get Ibrahimovic signing. We don't buy players like that. You know, we wouldn't get a manager like Ancelotti come to Arsenal, and that's. But I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, because I think Arteta's a good choice at this time for Arsenal. I think he's the right man.
And that's what I was trying to make the comparisons of with Arteta. No matter what the opposition is, he has these necessary injuries. He has his 11 of whether it's an attitude problem. Even in terms of that, the attitude of players, he ain't tolerating it.
Do you think he knows his best team yet? Still, do you think he knows his best team? I'm not sure if he does.
With this current sort of players, I don't think he has. I think he's got a few players in mind, and some of them being our youth players. But I think some of them he's just with Ozil as well. I think because he's played under him as well when he was at Arsenal. I think he's trying to see if he can get back to them when he first came to us, sort of that excitement sort of thing. But I don't.
I think Ozil looks a bit lost because he hasn't really got the players around him that he maybe had at the beginning when he first came.
Not just that. Sorry, Kevin can speak to this. Imagine, the standards that he set early in his career, sort of mentally, just how would that have affected him? World Cup winner at Real Madrid on top of the world. He's gone to Arsenal to be the man to carry Arsenal to glory. And how long's he been in now? 7 years?
2014 when he came.
Sorry, yes. But he's been there. He's been there. Yeah, he's been there quite a long time. The relationship with the fans is obviously not very, very good. And I don't know, Kevin can speak to this. He must have an issue motivating himself at this point. How much can Arteta really, really do to get I don't know.
I think he's just trying
squeeze what's left out of Ozil at this point.
I think he's just trying to do what he can with this sort of players to the end of the season. He didn't expect obviously this to happen, but he's trying to get the most out of what he's got. And then, obviously, whatever plan he's got in mind in future, he can then sort that out in the window, so to speak, and however long he's got.
Yeah, I think, look, when we all saw Mesut Ozil, Arsenal linked with Mesut Ozil, it was there was excitement because we'd seen him at Real Madrid, unbelievable player, releasing Ronaldo, great skill, great vision, but he had players behind him who gave him the platform to be able to play. Our problem was we brought him in and never had a plan for him. Again, we never had a plan. We never had the centre half. We never had the centre midfielder who's going to be holding to protect him. So you go and do your bit at that end of the pitch. I'll cover you here. We've never had that.
No.
Again, holding midfielder, centre half. In any top team, you need to be able to defend. If you cannot defend, you are going to struggle. And we have struggled and struggled and struggled. And, sometimes Ozil gets bad-mouthed at times. But coming in as that player, we didn't have a plan. And, it's kind of fallen away a little bit now. But we had a world-class player. Everybody admits he was world-class. He was world-class. But now he's on the wrong end of an age, and he's got 1 year left after this. And, that's going to be the end of Ozil.
Also, I know you've got to go, Kevin, in a minute. I'm going to get score predictions. Obviously, I'll go to you first. I'll give you the first game, obviously, Arsenal versus City. What do you think score prediction for tomorrow?
3-1 City.
Of course. And then second game will be, obviously, with your connections, Everton versus Liverpool on Sunday.
I'm going to go one each. I'm going to go for a draw. 1-1, yeah.
But it stops them winning the title. Then
Yeah, we got to stop them.
Rose, what about for yourself? Everton, Liverpool first. We'll go for your score prediction for next.
I'm always cautiously optimistic. I think I'll go for 2-1 Everton.
Oh, that'd be an upset for the.
So,
That would actually set.
I knew I like Rose. I knew I like Rose.
You can't say they're going to lose, can you? You can't say they're going to lose.
No,
not a derby game, especially not a derby game. Daniel, Man United versus Tottenham for Friday night. Big game. Are you at home for that one?
No, we're away. We're away, which will benefit us.
Even better for you, yeah.
I'm saying we'll beat them 2-1. I think we'll beat them 2-1.
I think in the circumstance, I think we'll beat them 3-0 actually, because I don't.
Really?
Mourinho is just we've got we'll be all day with Mourinho. You know yourself how he is, and he doesn't have the best of form against his former clubs.
No.
Kevin, what do you think about that Man United Tottenham before you go as well?
Yeah, I'm going to go for United, away win.
Yeah,
and solely because I think Spurs are still getting used to their ground, and we've seen teams any team who can counter-attack you tends to hurt Spurs. We've seen Chelsea go there and really hurt Spurs, and I think Tottenham are tailor-made for Manchester United. They are tailor-made. So Man United got a lot of pace up top, so they're going to expose them. I'm going to go 2-1. 2-1 Man United.
2-1. Okay. Rose, what about yourself? Man United versus Tottenham. Score prediction there?
Yeah, I think I'd agree that Man United win. I'll say 2-0.
Okay. And what about the Man City game tomorrow night against Arsenal? Do you see an upset coming, or do you think we're going to get absolutely?
I think we've got 3 Arsenal people on the chat. I would like to see a Man City win, just because. I don't know. See, I think 3-0 City. I don't see them not being part of the mark. Sorry.
Don't say sorry. We've seen it happen before, Rose.
I think Arsenal are going to win. I think Arsenal are going to do a smash and grab and win 1-0.
Really?
Yeah. I think Arteta's just going. I think he's just going to frustrate. Who's better? Who's in a better position to frustrate Pep?
Arteta, because he knows him inside out.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I think you're going to do a smash and grab, a Aubameyang 81st minute or something like that. Then you'll be 9 minutes of pain to the end, and then Mustafi will make a mistake. It'll be 1-1. Actually, that's what will happen.
He'll probably be playing. Yeah, that's true. If he plays.
Oh god!
Or you have David Luiz playing head tennis in the middle of the field. Richard, what about yourself? We'll go over our game first. Obviously, Man City, Arsenal.
I mean, before, when it was originally scheduled for March, I actually thought we could get at least a draw there. Just at the time we were playing well, they maybe wasn't. It's hard to say now. I'm going to go for a draw again, just because that's what I thought originally. So I think 1-1 as well. I think we'll score first, and then I think Man City will batter us for half an hour and get a goal eventually. So I'm going for 1-1 in that one, just optimistically more than anything, perhaps.
Yeah. And then obviously Friday night, got Man United Tottenham. What do you think about that then?
I'd like a draw, really, because I think if they both drop points, that's going to be a benefit to us. But Man United will probably win, but I want a draw, so I'm going to go 2-2.
Okay, and Sunday's big derby that could take Liverpool the title, depending on what happens in our game.
I mean, I'm hoping Everton win 4-0, because it'll be funny. And it will serve Liverpool right, and hope Liverpool lose every single match and Man City pipping for the title. But I'd like Everton to win, and I don't see any reason why they can't. I say Liverpool weren't in great form before, were they? Before the break, so you don't know what they're going to come back in. There's a lot of pressure on them because they're going to want to get it won quickly, aren't they? So I think Everton will win. I'm going to go 1-0 Everton.
Okay, 1-0 Everton.
Yeah,
I think we'll win. I think we will win tomorrow 2-1. I think it'll be a smash and, as Daniel said earlier, smash and grab if we were to win.
That would be nice.
I can't
take your hand off now for that. I'd say anything.
Literally.
Just hand us the win.
Any draw win I'll take, obviously. in the circumstances, and then obviously we can't lose that. And then going into Brighton because we need a confidence going into that Brighton game. Otherwise, it's just going to be, oh god, here we go.
Brighton, like Kevin said, 4-4-2, press you high up the pitch, don't give you a minute to breathe.
Yeah,
that's tough, Matt.
They're a bogey team as well, so yeah, that's going to be a harder game than Man City in some ways.
As I said about Man United, I think they'll win Friday comfortably 3-0 because Mourinho and he's just not good enough.
Not a big fan of Mourinho, are you?
He's anybody.
Yeah, there was that, and I think like Wenger, when Wenger's expiry dates came along and he stayed on too long, Mourinho's now having that era of his style of football is expired now. It isn't effective, and he's now just staying on for the money sort of thing, which is not benefiting anyone because he's upsetting the apple cart at wherever club he goes to. Man United, literally within days, is calling out players left, right, and centre, called an upset everywhere.
He left our club in a bad state. To be fair, the atmosphere really, really toxic.
Yeah, you had top quality. The top quality players there, like Pogba.
He's done that everywhere, hasn't he? He's done that everywhere. He did it at Chelsea, didn't he? He left them in a mess.
He literally comes into Tottenham a year out. He comes to Tottenham and he literally had a few games and he's back, and literally we're seeing again what we've seen before.
Yeah, he threw Ndombele under the bus, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
For you,
People forget Mourinho has such a negative impact in Spain that the Barcelona and Real Madrid players, the teams that played for the national team, they had to have a meeting to mitigate the situation that he created at club level because he loves conflict. Yeah, right? He's just a different type of man. He seems to thrive, or he used to thrive in that type of situation. But yeah.
And in terms of Everton, Liverpool, before this, I would have said Liverpool. Before this break, I would have said Liverpool win because of the form they're in. Even though they had recently lost and their form was a bit at the time, just because it's a derby and the form they've had in derbies recently. But with the break and even though you've got major injuries, the pressure's off you. So there's more pressure on them.
Yeah.
Iwobi will score. Iwobi definitely.
Iwobi he thrives on derbies.
Yeah, Iwobi's fit, so that's good. Yeah.
He does thrive in a derby. So I think
Iwobi will score.
I think 2-1 Everton.
You see, you're all saying this, and I'm going to
turn
up watch that game, and after half an hour, I'm going to have to turn the TV off. And just...
Yeah, I think that
we'll
might
be
be
doing
true.
that.
Yeah.
I hope it kills us all. Oh dear. So yeah, I'm going to wrap it up now. Thanks guys for coming on. Oh yes,
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, over 24 hours to go now. Also, Kevin, before you go, how's your boys coping with all this as well? With Stoke and
they've they start on Saturday. Stoke, obviously their manager Michael O'Neill got tested and had COVID last week. Yeah. So that the Billy McKinley, the assistant manager, and everyone had to obviously sort the team out, etc. But look, it is what it is, and it's uncertain times right now. But they're going to be fine. They're looking forward to the game. They play Reading away at the weekend, and it's a really good game for them. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, definitely. Again, as I said, thanks guys for coming on. Hopefully I can have you all again soon. Probably at the end of the season as a review to all this and see how things pan out. And yeah, again, Rose, you want to tell people they can find you as well?
Oh, yes. I have a YouTube channel. It's literally called Everton Rose. And I'm on Twitter as well, Everton Rose YT. So follow me on there. Can I just say as well, sorry, to Kevin, I only started my channel a year ago, so I'm really pleased to get to speak to you. A little bit nervous, so... But yeah, I know what you did for us in 1999, even though I was only 4 years old. So
don't be nervous.
To talk to all of you.
Rose, don't be nervous. You're part of the family now.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks all for having me on as well.
Yeah, no worries. Kevin is a great guy. I met him. What was it for the North London Derby last season?
That's right. Yeah.
And ever since then, been fantastic for me. Daniel, where can people find you as well?
You can find me on YouTube at The Devil in the Details, or on Twitter at Devil Details NU, and you'll find a link to my YouTube channel there.
And Kevin, you've set up a YouTube channel recently. So you want to plug your channel as well?
Well, Well, not really, actually, Ryan. I do it really to interview fans
Yeah,
because I like fan experiences.
yeah.
And it's not necessarily this. I might get you, Dan, because you're Man United. I've already interviewed one Man United fan. I might go for you, Rose, as well. But it's different, different strokes for different folks, really.
Yeah.
Mainly Arsenal, but I do other. I've even got Red Nose John on my mate, Red Nose John, Liverpool fan. Watch it; he'll drive you absolutely mad. He's a staunch Liverpool fan, but he's a good guy. So that's what I do. Yes,
That's
one
that, and
Kevin
that's
Campbell. That's what it's at. So
yeah, and that's why I want to bring it up, because you are literally interviewing fans.
yeah, I've got one. I've got
Yeah.
one just after this now.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Kev, actually, I mean, it's a pleasure to speak to you. I mean, I watched probably most of your games when you played for Arsenal. We used to go home and away then, so I've got a lot of memories of you playing for the club, some great goals that you scored. So I just want to thank you for that, really.
No problem.
I love
No
listening to
problem.
you as well, talking about the club, it's brilliant.
It's my pleasure, Rich. My pleasure. Lovely meeting you all, guys.
Yeah.
And Ryan,
Cheers, Kevin.
just let me know next time
Yeah,
when you want me on.
Yeah, no worries, definitely. Thanks, Kevin.
Take care, everybody. Bye now.
Thanks, Kevin. Take care.
Cheers,
Bye.
mate.
Bye.
Bye.
And yeah, Richard, where can people find you on socials?
Just on Twitter, official Rick B. That's it. I mean, I've got a blog on Arsenal. It's called Over and Over and Over Again. Just doing some stuff on, old matches and old players and stuff like that. So yeah, look out for that.
Yeah, and that's it. That's basically it. I'm back tomorrow night. That's gonna be fun. I've got to do a watch along on here. That's gonna be.
Can I just ask Richard something? Actually, just had a random question. I just want to ask him.
Yeah, go on, mate.
Do you think how would Sol Campbell do in this era of centre backs? How do you think he compared to the centre backs today?
In a way, you may be asking the wrong person. I mean, Sol Campbell was a great player, and he did a great job for Arsenal. But I was never a big fan of his, really. He walked out of a game at half time once and stuff like that. I just can't really get my head around it. But he probably would do quite well, actually, because he liked the physical side of the game, didn't he? He might get sent off a few more times, maybe now. Give away a few more penalties with VAR and stuff. But obviously, since he's left Arsenal, we've not had a player like that in their defence, have we, at all? And if we could find somebody who played a similar style to him, a big physical defender, a leader from the back, then that's probably what we need. I mean, I think David Luiz actually has done quite well, funnily enough, in terms of since Arteta's come in. But he's not a long-term solution, obviously, because of his age and stuff like that. But no, I think Sol Campbell would do a good job. A defender like him now. I think maybe some of the pace he might be up against, he might struggle a little bit. I think that tended to be sometimes where he found it difficult, didn't he? Some sort of quick, nippy sort of clever player. He found it difficult against, but certainly from the physical side of the game, I think he, at the end of the day, he even now he'd probably be better than most of the defenders that we've got.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just asking because I sort of noticed with all of our clubs here. I mean, United, we've got a decent centre back partnership now. I don't rate Lindelof. But I was just looking at the centre backs from like 12 years ago. Even Everton, like Jagielka and Distin, that was a really, really solid centre back partnership. I think would do well in this era, actually. Probably Arsenal could do with two centre backs like that right now, actually.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, I mean, if Arsenal could get two decent centre backs in, we'd actually have a half decent chance because we've got attacking players who can score goals. We don't have a problem at that end of the pitch, but unfortunately, when you let in 2 or 3 goals in every game, it's difficult to get points in it. That's the problem. I don't think it's just the defence, actually. From Arsenal's point of view, I think our midfield have been too open. Certainly under Emery and towards the end under Wenger as well. And I think what Arteta's done is he's sort of closed the gap in midfield. So the defence aren't exposed as much. And that's why our defensive record's improved over the last 10 games, because they're not, there were games earlier in this season in particular where, teams were having 30, 40 shots at goal, because the midfield was so open, the defenders literally had no protection. And that's maybe been our bigger issue. And I think maybe with maybe one decent centre back in there now, with the midfield shape we've got now, I think we would see improvements going forward. And I think that's been more of the issue. I think the defenders individually actually haven't been too bad. I don't think Mustafi's a bad defender. I think he's been exposed by the fact that he's had nothing to protect him in front of him. And sometimes he comes out because he has to come out because nobody's in the gap there. So he's coming into the midfield position. He's diving into a challenge, missing it. And then suddenly there's a massive gap behind him. But that's not necessarily individually his fault, particularly because the midfield aren't there giving him that protection. And I think he's been exposed perhaps more than some others have, but I think that's been our problem for the last 10 years. And if we can get that sort of, maybe Partey coming in is the answer to that problem there. One centre back, and then keep Aubameyang for another year, 2 years, and then we can go from there. Yeah.
Any more questions or?
What Rose thinks about Walcott and Iwobi, really.
There's another two that we've taken off the top 6.
Yeah.
Walcott definitely passed it. He's picking up injuries constantly now.
He did before.
It was injured at you guys a lot as well, wasn't he? But I think Walcott sometimes gets like an unfair reputation because he was touted to be like the next Rooney or whatever it was at 16, like record like Premier League player or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like the youngest player to play in the Premier League. So it's unfair because he did, in fairness, he scored over 100 goals for you guys, but probably about 10 a year when you work it out. So Walcott, I'm not a fan. I keep him as a squad player, but not a starter. Iwobi only had 1 season. Not been great, if I'm being perfectly honest. And it's 40 million as well.
Welcome to our world. Welcome to our world.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually think Phil, one of Arsenal's most underrated players ever. I actually think he's so underrated, Walcott.
Yeah.
He on his day he was unbelievable, and he scored some great important goals. But I agree, he probably is past his best now, isn't he? And I think when you've had an injury hit career, when you get older, it's going to be even worse, isn't it? I think Iwobi's probably got potential, but he just never really did it for Arsenal. I didn't think he had a good start, and then I never thought he really pushed on. But he seems to be doing what I've seen of him at Everton. He seems to have done okay.
Yeah, he's doing okay. Just end product needs to be better.
You'll get used to that.
Ryan, I've got to go. I've got to go. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no worries.
Right, you got lucky this time. Next time I'm on, we'll talk about Pepe.
No, let's not.
Yeah. By then, he'll be skyrocketing by then, so don't worry.
Okay.
All right, take care, guys.
Cheers, Dan. Take it easy, mate.
Bye. Yeah. Bye. Okay. Well, I had the final question was: you've been linked to John Stones from City because I think he hasn't really kicked on there. Would you take him as a centre back?
No.
Me personally, no.
No.
I know he came from you guys, but I don't. Since he's gone at City, I've never rated him.
Yeah. No. Interestingly, though, because there was Arsenal and Everton were linked back with him, but I'd say no. He hasn't pushed on from where he was under Pep. So if you're not going to learn under Pep, then forget it. So I'd say no as well.
I mean, he's quite good with the ball, isn't he? Bringing the ball out of defence, but I just think that in our team, he'd just get it taken off him, and then we'd end up conceding goals. So I don't think he's the right player for Arsenal. We need a defender who's going to defend and get rid of the ball. I mean, David Luiz does the same sometimes, but.
So who would you like? Last question. So who would you like to see Arsenal sign and centre back?
It's difficult, really, isn't it? I mean, I quite liked that Mina that you got. After the World Cup, I thought he looked quite good. I wouldn't sort of have minded him. I know he's had a lot of injuries. He's not really had a chance to play much in the Premier League yet, has he? I mean, Newcastle have had a couple of good centre backs this season.
Like Lascelles.
Lascelles is quite good. Yeah, they've done quite well at the back, but there's no one in the Premier League that sort of sticks out to me and says, "Oh, that would massively improve our defence." Really, I mean, other than Van Dijk, obviously, and the chances of getting him is pretty much nothing. So, I suppose it would be a matter of looking at abroad. Really, I mean, I don't really. There's no one that stands out. I would say yes, let's get him. The only player I really want us to sign at the minute is Partey, because I think him in midfield would actually make a massive difference to the defence as well. I'd keep David Luiz for another year. I know there's talk that might happen or might not, but I would keep him. I mean, Rob Holdings would be all right if he can get fit. So, I think Partey's the one I want. If we can get Partey, then I'd be happy. And maybe another striker as backup, because I feel that without Aubameyang's goals, we would be in trouble. And if he does decide to go as well or not sign his contract, we'd have to sell him. And then I think a striker that'd be a priority, really, I suppose. But I mean, if we get, I don't know. I mean, I know there's talk of that. What's his name? Upamecano. He could be quite a good signing, maybe. Or even TT as well from Barcelona.
Yeah. Those good, really good players.
They would.
But yeah, no, thanks. Sorry, I was going to say thanks for having me on the.
I don't know where he's gone, actually.
Yeah, I've got to go as well. So I'll say bye now. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
No, it's always good to talk to fans from different clubs as well.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
See you. Bye. Bye.
Oh dear. Yeah, my brother just came in because he's trying to test internet connections for me, and it's not. Yeah, it's all messy there.
Okay.
So that was interesting today.
That was good. It was a good show. Yeah, enjoyed it.
Yeah. And as I was saying before, doing the watch along tomorrow night, I've got Colin coming on from Much Arsenal, and Ola's hoping to come on for the second half. Are you watching the game yourself, or are you around to come on?
Oh yeah, I can do. Yeah, I mean, I'll have it on the telly, so it might be a different experience actually, because without like, no crowd and stuff like that, it's going to be weird.
That's another thing. The Sky have introduced that, haven't they? The Sky Sports Fan Zone, where they've teamed up with VA, haven't they, to put
yeah.
So,
I mean, it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what the whole experience is like, because it's a brand new thing for everyone, isn't it? Really, so it'd be interesting to see what Sky do as well, and all the TV companies that are showing the games. It's just see what they make the experience like for everybody. Because at the end of the day, I mean, I would have been at Man City normally, so I'm a bit gutted that I can't be at the game. So I want something different to make up for that, really, and if they can add something like that to it, that'd be good. But we'll see what happens. I mean, I think as the games go on, they might pick up a few different things. I mean, Germany started off different. They've kind of changed their coverage a little bit, haven't they, with the crowd noise and stuff as they've gone along. And I think we'll be the same. I think we'll pick things up as we go along, and hopefully we can, we can enjoy it at least a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's an 8:15 kickoff, isn't it, tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think it's 8:15. Yeah, because I think the other game kicked off. Is it 6:30? The other one?
It's not that. So literally, about 15 minutes straight after that finishes, we'll be kicking off.
Yeah.
So we'll be going live around 8ish, going through the lineups, and if we're happy with it or not, this, that, and the other, and then just having a laugh, basically, providing some content for people that obviously, because not everyone's been going to go, are they? Because of this.
Oh, yeah.
So and hopefully that'll be interesting.
I might swear a bit though. That's the only thing. I'll tend to swear a bit when I'm watching this.
I think when everything goes tits up, we'll be all swearing. Trust me.
Yeah, but you think we're going to win, so you'll be all right.
Oh yeah, I think as you said, it's earlier on. It's a good time just to play them, basically.
Well, it could be. I suppose we don't know for certain, but I would say
and the fact we're the away team again as well, because there's no fans there, it goes in our favour as well, sort of.
Yeah, hopefully.
With the pressure that the media are putting on Pep with the Arteta factor, would he be able to cope with that as well? And plus, you've got to remember as well, amongst all this, Pep has suffered with that due to the hands of this virus of his mother in the first few weeks of lockdown.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of factors and a lot of things going on tomorrow on both sides of it. So and
bearing in mind, Arteta was the first kind of Premier League sort of person to be tested positive as well, wasn't he, for COVID back at the beginning of it all? So
he was literally the very first. It was 24 hours before we initially better play City.
That's what kicked it all off, really, wasn't it? I think I remember thinking at the time, the whole thing seemed a bit unreal, didn't it? And then
Yeah.
suddenly Mikel Arteta's tested positive, and suddenly it's like it's actually happening now. And that seemed to kick it all off, didn't it? Obviously, football getting cancelled and everything else kind of shutting down within about a week of that. So that seemed to be the start of it all. So I suppose in a way, it's it's ironic. It's ironic, perhaps, that we're playing Man City back again at the other side of it all. But I suppose it's what it is.
And again, I've appreciated how open he was with that, because he said when he started feeling the symptoms, he weren't sure what to do. Spoke to the club, they got him a test, and literally got the results back 24 hours before that game. And he's literally come to him and both clubs. They've all gone to the FA, explained the situation, and said they couldn't. There was no way they could actually do that match. Again, because of how they then what was it on the next night, the following night, then announced that he'd got the virus. That we don't know how many lives he actually saved, because if that hadn't happened, you could argue the football doesn't will have kept going for another week or two.
Possibly would have done.
So
I mean, that's definitely what kickstarted them to postpone it, or wasn't it, at that particular time? Obviously, initially they only thought it was maybe going to be for a few weeks, and here we are 3 months later, just about to start again. But
but it is what it is. And again, it gives us something to watch and keeps our mind off things with politics and all that. So
that'd be good to have a distraction away. There's been too much sort of negativity going on in the world, really, over the last few weeks in particular. So it'd be good to have football back and something positive. Well, say positive to focus on. It'll be positive until we lose. Or hopefully we won't lose. But it'll be positive until we lose, and then it'll be.
It'll just be typical Arsenal to win tomorrow night or get a result.
And then lose to Brighton. To be honest, I'm more worried about the Brighton game. I said that the other night, just because they've been a real bogey team to us. So, but having said that, I mean, I'm convinced we're not going to lose both of them games. So if we lose to Man City, I don't think we'll lose to Brighton. And whereas if we avoid defeat at Man City, I wouldn't be surprised if we do then lose to Brighton. But I can't see us winning both or losing both. It's going to be, I think the Man City game, whatever result we get there, we'll see, and then hopefully we can.
I said with our first, how many games we got? The City, Southampton, Brighton. Was it Southampton the third game?
Southampton, and
then Norwich. If we were to get in the first 3 games, if we were to get 7 out of 9 points, that surely puts us in a good stead, depending on other results.
It's a big ask, that though. It's a big. I mean, if we can get 7 points, that'd be amazing. But I'd take maybe
but in a
3 or 4.
But as you said earlier, if we don't get European football this season, it's not the end of the world. It could benefit us, because we've seen in recent years, Liverpool and Chelsea, as we mentioned before,
possibly
finished outside of Europe, and then spent that season out of Europe, putting their plans in place and setting the standards from that season onwards.
Yeah, possibly.
Building.
Like I say, like I said before, I think it's going to be. We won't really know that until afterwards how much it might benefit us or not. It could go the other way, couldn't it?
Just be our luck.
So as it is, when we fell out the Champions League for the first time a couple of years ago, I thought that we'd be straight back in it again, and we haven't really sort of managed to do that, have we, so far? And we're not going to probably do it this year. So. Sometimes you drop out of something you've been in for a long time, and then sometimes it is difficult to get back in it again, especially now. I say it's harder than ever. I think with possibly top 6, top 7 next season, it's going to be hard, isn't it? So all I want us to do really is to get as many points as we can, finish as high up the league as we can. If it's top 4, top 5, brilliant. If it isn't, it isn't, and we just have to, rebuild for next season. That's all we can do now, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. And as I said, if you're available tomorrow, we'll be starting at 8. So that'd be great. And enjoy the rest of your day, guys. And if you're watching, thanks to everyone in the chat as well. Been a lot of people in the chat this afternoon as well. Appreciate all your comments there. Melina, Simpy, Wayne, Revenant, Kevin, and I'm trying to think now. SN Will. All appreciate your support. If you haven't already, do Wayne as well. If you haven't already, do subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. Drive them likes up. And be back tomorrow night with Richard, Colin, and possibly Odo in the second half because he's got work because he's going to miss the first half. But yeah, 8 o'clock. We'll be back tomorrow night. Until then, as always, up the arse.